1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
From the palatial yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor, 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to what is a Thursday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all the great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course, streaming live on YouTube. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in. That's 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter X at Zach Gelb. That is ZACHGELB. We got a whole lot to do today. Coming up at 4 p.m. Eastern time, we're going to open up the coaching carousel. We are going to make predictions for the Patriots, the Bears, the Jaguars, the Jets, the Raiders, and the Saints, the 6 jobs that are open. We will bring on an expert from each team, from each city, to make a prediction on who's going to be their next head football coach in the year of 2025. So that will take up most of the 4 p.m. Eastern time hour. Don't worry if you are a college football fan. We will have you covered today for a ton of preview with Penn State going up against Notre Dame. Stu is all fired up today. This is really turning into the Stu show, if we're being honest. Forget about little old poor me, Zach Gelb. Right, I'm just here, hard hat on, showing up to work, just trying to do my job. But the real star of this extravaganza right now is Stuart Kovacs. Because we knew going into this day, it was going to be a big Stu show because he's the Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan on this show. And he's wearing what is that, a quarter zip, a fleece, a Notre Dame kind of fleece, I would say?
Yeah, it's like a quarter zip that's more like a sweatshirt since it's very cold today.
Yeah, it's looking very nice. So we know there was going to be a lot of Stu coverage today with Notre Dame and Penn State. But I didn't think we were going to have to double dip into the Stu pool because when you take a glance, not only are we going to be talking Stu's college football team, we're also going to be talking about his NFL team. And we were going to talk about his NFL team either way, in regards to Deion Sanders and some things that Coach Prime did elect to say the other day that are a little bit different, where, I don't have any interest in the NFL. I'm not going to the NFL. And now all of a sudden he's going on every show that would listen to him yesterday and saying, on Good Morning America, saying on Gilly's show as well, hey, if a team wants me, they have to have both of my sons. Not just son in Shador, also Shiloh as well. So I thought we were going to lead this show only talking about Deion Sanders and how the Raiders can move up from 6, maybe make a trade with the Browns and they go get Shador. And then whether it's this year or next year, with Antonio Pierce now being out of a job, you have Shador Sanders, Shiloh Sanders, and Coach Prime all on the Raiders in some capacity next year. But before we could even get there, the Raiders, who waited until they fired Antonio Pierce, they waited until Tuesday. Now, on Thursday, we get a breaking news report after thinking that Tom Telesco was safe, that Tom Telesco is now out. And he's been fired as the GM of the Las Vegas Raiders. So, Stu, I think there's many ways that we could go with this. There's a thought of how will this impact this hiring cycle? Or how is it going to impact future hiring cycles? Because I'm wondering if Tom Telesco getting fired by the Raiders today means that the Raiders needed to get rid of Tom Telesco because they were told from a prospective candidate right now, hey, I want to be your next head coach, but I want to pick my GM. I want to bring in my own guy, and I'm not vibing, and I don't think I will mesh well with Tom Telesco. And that's a thought. And I do think with Tom Brady at the helm here, kind of running point in a minority owner capacity, I do believe that the Raiders are going big name hunting. Now, does that mean Mike Vrabel's going to say, Robert Kraft, I'm leaving you at the altar. I'm going to team up with Tommy Brady because now I get to pick my GM? I think that's on the table. Could this mean that Ben Johnson, who most of us believe, right, Ben Johnson's either going to New England or he's going to Chicago or maybe even Jacksonville? Maybe Ben Johnson's looking at it and saying, Ryan Poles is already with the Bears. Elliott Wolf is with the Patriots. I know what Shad Khan said, that they don't have to bring back Trent Baalke, but Trent Baalke's still there. Maybe Ben Johnson said to Tom Brady, Tom, I'm a great, innovative offensive mind. You're the greatest quarterback of all time. You get Tom Telesco out there, wink, wink, I'd be really interested in your job. Is that a possibility? Pete Carroll, I think, is also a big name. In Pete Carroll's position right now, where I don't think he's a hot name, he could ask for someone to be out. He could try to force Tom Telesco out, but I don't think that Pete Carroll is really trying to dictate who the general manager is. So those were just some immediate names right off the tip of the tongue when I saw this news, where I'm thinking to myself, in the immediate future, maybe this is what gets Vrabel or Ben Johnson to go to the Raiders. But then I started to think to myself, what else could this mean for the future? And this is one thought that I have, Stu, and I don't know where you lie on this one. Tom Brady is the minority owner of the Las Vegas Raiders. Tom Brady is also getting paid, I think it's over 10 years or whatever it is, $375 million from Fox. Is this Tom Brady's first step out of the broadcasting booth? Where Tom Brady is firing the GM because he wants to be the president of football operations and also be the minority owner. And that's something that I thought about here, where you hear how Tom Brady, up until this Tom Telesco news that came out a few hours ago, was going to be hands-on anyway in picking the next quarterback and was going to be extremely resourceful in that department. And also he was going to have his hands all over this head coaching hire. Maybe Brady's just saying, you know what? I don't like sounding like a robot in the broadcast booth. I know it pays me a lot of money, but I'm Tom frickin' Brady. Yeah, everyone loves that $375 million, but I'll be able to survive not getting the Fox money. And I can now be a minority owner with the Raiders, which I already am, but I could really go all in and have my handprints all over this and be not only minority owner, but the president of football operations, and maybe bring in someone that will work underneath me to also serve as a general manager. So that's what I think this move could mean as well. And also, could it potentially be setting the stage for next year, where the Raiders maybe do a stopgap approach? And I understand, hey, if you're doing a stopgap approach because you're trying to reel in a bigger fish next year, like Coach Prime or Bill Belichick, who Brady reportedly did call to see if he was interested, and maybe Bill said to himself, I know I left the Jets before coaching a game, but I don't want to leave UNC before coaching a full season. Could this potentially be the Raiders setting the way to kind of just bring in a coach and a GM or leave that GM vacant, have Brady do the GM duties, and then you bring in a coach that is basically just holding a place until they go make a move. And don't tell me that you can't do that in this league. Because we saw Lovie Smith and Dave Culley both be there for a year and be out with the Houston Texans. We've seen a lot of one-and-done coaches in this league. And guess what? Everyone, when someone gets fired one and done, they're like, oh, my goodness gracious, oh, it's horrible. And usually it's unfair, but you're still getting paid that money. You know, if you structure your contract correctly, they still owe you the money on the years on that contract. So there's many ways that we could go with this. My first thought, though, is this is the Raiders trying to land either Ben Johnson or Mike Vrabel and make it really attractive for them. But if it's not, then I start to think, okay, maybe Brady's just going to be the GM, president of football operations, and he's going to pick his next head coach. Or could it even be setting the foundation for a bigger move that they're going to make next year? Stu, there's a lot of options here on the table. And I mean a lot of options. And this could also just be the Raiders being the Raiders, right?
Yes.
Like, hey, we're going to be late to the party firing Antonio Pierce. And even though we should have already had our evaluation done on Tom Telesco, maybe we're just going to be late to the party and firing Tom Telesco as well. Maybe I am thinking too much here. But what's your first thought on Tom Telesco out? And then also when it comes to the future of the Raiders?
I weirdly think it has to do with Belichick.
Ooh.
It's just a hunch. There's nothing behind it other than maybe, okay, there could be more control and Telesco isn't someone that'll be in the way of that. Now, whether that's Brady making moves or Belichick making moves or some kind of tandem, I don't know. That was the first hunch I got.
Could you believe how nasty that would be?
It'd be weird.
And I would not put it beneath Bill Belichick. Let me be abundantly clear on that. And Bill should be coaching in the NFL. But can you imagine if this move is to reel in the big fish, to reel in the hoodie, to reel in Bill Belichick? That would be something. It really would be. Because to your theory, Stu, Bill could say, oh, I don't need the power, right? I don't need the power. Baloney. Do I think Bill Belichick changes his ways in one offseason, 1 year away? No, I do not. And what would be the best way to sweeten the pot for the hoodie if Tom called up Bill and was like, Bill, I want you to leave UNC. I want you to be the head football coach. We're keeping Tom Telesco. We just got rid of Antonio Pierce. You're my guy. And maybe Bill responded back and just said, Tom, not interested right now. I'm recruiting a 4-star recruit who is demanding $400,000 in NIL. Not interested. And also, the audacity of you calling me and asking me to work with Tom Telesco. I'm only coming to the Raiders and joining the pirate ship of the Raiders if you let me have all the power. Okay? That's the way that's just going to go. And then maybe Tommy went back to Mark Davis. They probably sat down, opened up for Tom Brady a big bottle of wine, and they probably had some nice dinner. And maybe Brady said to Mark Davis, hey, if we want Belichick, we got to get rid of Tom Telesco. You know what? I hope I'm on the, if that is true, I hope I'm on the air while it happens. Like if we get a breaking news report from Schefter or Ian Rappaport where it's, hey, Belichick to the Raiders, I want to be on the air. I want to be on the air for that. But I think the most intriguing, Belichick's definitely the most intriguing. But in terms from my perspective, and here's my fear, that it's going to end up being Vrabel. Because I've wanted for 2 years now, for crying out loud, Mike Vrabel to be the head coach of the Patriots. And if this is Brady getting Vrabel there and then giving him all the power to hire the GM or have him be the GM himself, well, then the Pats better go get Ben Johnson. So there's a lot of avenues to explore here, and we'll see what the Raiders are going to end up doing. Let me then play Deion Sanders. This is on Good Morning America on ABC yesterday. Coach Prime. Hey, would you coach in the NFL?
The only way I would consider is to coach my son. Not son. No. Sons. Okay.
So that was one. Now, here was Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, on the $1 Million Worth of Game podcast, doubling down on what he said earlier in the day.
The only way I would consider continuing is that I'm coaching my sons, plural, not singularly, plural. Or I wouldn't even think about it because I love Colorado. I love everything I do. And everybody, well, what would you do? Well, I have to think about it if I get to coach both of them.
Right.
I'm not following them, and it couldn't be like that unless I'm there prior.
Right.
But if I'm there prior, how can that happen? So it could really never happen.
Right.
But you got to think about it logically as a father. Shoot.
Yeah, to coach your boys.
I've always, that's all I know.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you hear that, Colorado fans? That's a TikTok song. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no, 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 no. Because you thought Coach Prime was never leaving. Right? And he may not. Could I see him eventually leaving for a bigger college job? I'm not going to say that that's impossible. But could he leave for the NFL? Oh, for most of this year, last 2 years, he's not interested in the NFL. That's him at least leaving that door open if you get Shedeur Sanders and you get Shiloh Sanders. And I don't know, there's a team out there named the Raiders who now have a head coach and a GM spot open. And it's not crazy if Deion wants to play some games for him to wind up with the Raiders and then also move up from 6-2 or 6-3. Or I don't even know if you could move up from 6-1. I guess it's possible. Anything's possible, as KG would say. But you could get from 6-1 as well. So that's on the table. Now, Stu, I don't know about you. And, I've been busy before the show. So Tom Telesco, since this news came out, has there been a name that's kind of emerged in the Twitterverse or the Raiders Redditverse that people are kind of connecting here that Telesco out, Antonio Pierce we knew was already out, that this means this is what Tom Brady and Mark Davis are kind of setting themselves up to do?
It's kind of been a modge podge of everything you said in terms of like Vrabel.
A modge podge. I like that. A charcuterie board of options.
That's right. I like that better. Vrabel, Ben Johnson, Belichick, and again, just also the idea of the Raiders don't know what they're doing, so it could be nothing.
So Jordan Schultz put this out there. By firing Tom Telesco and Antonio Pierce, the Raiders can now sell to top coaching candidates that they will be getting a clean reset at both levels of the organization. That's something most other openings can't offer. So we could speculate, hey, maybe this move getting Tom Telesco out and following up with Antonio Pierce a few days earlier, maybe this move is Brady becoming the next president of football operations and walking away from Fox. Like, that could be a possibility. Brady picks a coach. You got a partnership. This could also be, okay, Bill Belichick said no. Now Bill Belichick can get all the power. Maybe Tom Brady will call up Bill Belichick one more time and say, you could be the GM and the head coach, just like it was for years when we were dominated and winning 6 Super Bowl championships together in New England. Could this maybe be setting the stage for someone in the interim? Then you see if you get Shedeur Sanders, and now I guess Shiloh Sanders and Coach Prime is interested. I don't know. All options are on the table. But I really do believe this move today, if I had to handicap it, I think it's to try to find a way for Mike Vrabel and Ben Johnson to seriously consider the Raiders. Where maybe they would have been interested, but now we could sell you, hey, Mike Vrabel. Well, in New England, you got Elliott Wolf. Hey, Mike Vrabel. In Jacksonville, you got Trent Baalke. Hey, Mike Vrabel. And also Ben Johnson, because it applies to him too. In Chicago, you got Ryan Poles. Yeah, we don't got a quarterback with the Raiders. We got some young talent. We got a few proven players. But this is a building process. This is a building process. And you could be the head coach, Ben Johnson and Mike Vrabel, and we will give you a big say on who's going to be the next GM if you don't want to be the GM, in fact, yourself, and also be teamed up as the GM and the head coach. So that's what I think this move is today. It's fun to speculate the other names, but it's to make this job more attractive and to get one of these hot coaching names that are available right now to say, okay, I want to join the silver and black, and I want to go out to Vegas, Sin City, and see if we could turn around the Raiders franchise. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Give me a name that you want to see be the next head football coach of the Raiders. We'll take a timeout. When we come on back, which coach do you trust the most in the college football playoff, and which quarterback do you trust the most with the 4 teams remaining in the college football playoff? You got Notre Dame and Penn State tonight, and then coming up tomorrow evening, you have Ohio State going up against Texas.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. Stu, can I get you up on camera just for a second? Because I got a tweet for a suggestion for the Raiders job, and I really want to be able to see your reaction to this one.
Oh boy, that can't be good.
No, it's not. And I know that this is smothered in sarcasm, and it's smothered from someone who's a Chargers fan. So the great Bella B in Calgary has chimed in on Twitter at Zach Gelb, and she said, "Hey, Zach, how about Brandon Staley for the head coaching job in Vegas?
Wonderful.
Hashtag bolt up."
Great.
You good?
Oh, yeah, that'd be a wonderful hire.
Him and all of his yoga poses and all that stuff?
Par for the course of Raiders coaching hires the past 20 years.
Do the Raiders now become the most fascinating job on the market? Not the best.
Definitely not the best, but I think it is the most fascinating.
So you look at this. The Saints, no intrigue. Blah. The Jaguars, really no intrigue. Blah. Like, yeah, I think they're great. I think the Jaguars are actually the best job in the market, if I'm being honest. No pressure, AFC South, easy division, and you got to think that you could save Trevor Lawrence, and you got Brian Thomas Jr., and you got some running backs. After that, like you look at the Pats, the Bears, the Jets, and the Raiders. The Jets, the intrigue is Rodgers coming back? But if Rodgers does come back, all right, you're waiting another year to address the quarterback position. If he doesn't come back, then what do? And you just have, where you've been the last few years, a young roster, some competitive names and some good names, but let's be real, you don't get your quarterback. So the Bears, the Pats, and the Raiders, the Patriots, I'm biased. I don't think they're that intriguing. It seems as if it's going to be Vrabel. Now, maybe that changes today with Tom Telesco being out of the Raiders. Maybe this is Brady's last-ditch effort to get Vrabel to change his mind, and he's supposedly interviewing today with the Patriots. But I think the most intriguing job, it's between the Bears and the Raiders. And you look at it, if you ask me, Zach, would you rather be the next head coach of the Bears or the Raiders? I would say the Bears. Now, both divisions are tough. You got the AFC West, Broncos, Chargers, obviously the Chiefs. We'll see long-term what the Broncos and Chargers are. And you look at the NFC North, Vikings are really damn good. Lions are really damn good. And the Green Bay Packers are always a solid franchise. So, yes, the NFC North is very difficult to navigate. But you have someone that is viewed as a generational quarterback and is a number one overall pick, and he got dealt just a rotten hand this year when Matt Eberflus shouldn't have been there. And also, the GM and Ryan Poles allowed Matt Eberflus to come on back. And Ryan Poles is still there. So I think the Bears' job, when we look at it, most of us think, all right, Vrabel or Ben Johnson. But if it's not Vrabel or Ben Johnson, then where do you go? You look at the Raiders, and I would still think the Bears go young, offensive-minded head coach then if it's not Ben Johnson. But you look at the Raiders, I have no clue where they're going to go. And they don't have much going for them outside of they play in Vegas. You got Max Crosby, which you can either use as a great player or trade him for a bunch of picks. Christian Wilkins, a good defensive lineman in this league. You got Brock Bowers, who's a stud, right? He's a unicorn. Outside of that, what else do the Raiders, Stu, really have to sell you on? Outside of, you new head coach, we don't got a GM tying you down there like all these other teams do.
Location, that's about it. I can't give you more. Brock Bowers, he might be a generational type of guy.
And how much is the location really important? Because these coaches, they're in the facility for like 18 hours a day. So you're really enjoying yourself on the strip, with all the delicious food options. You know what? I would tell Sully, the Raiders need to hire our pal Sully. Because the Raiders could just have Sully take whatever candidates around town and take them to Piero's and get some of the best bone-in veal parm that I've ever had in my life. Very scrumptious. So I would put Sully on the hiring committee. And Sully would be down because that means Sully then would be able to rub elbows with Tommy Brady. And I don't think Sully could contain himself around Tom Brady being a Patriot honk. So the Raiders are intriguing to me just because I have no feel where they're going to go. Like the Patriots, I think it's going to be Vrabel. The Bears, Ben Johnson, Cliff Kingsbury. If they go defense, maybe Brian Flores. The Jaguars, Ben Johnson, Liam Cohen, Joe Brady. The Jets, I feel like it's going to be Aaron Glenn. The Saints, who the heck knows, but the Saints are just in like no man's land right now. And the Saints also have Mickey Loomis there. So the Raiders, they put lipstick on a pig. That's what your team did today. They said, we know we're ugly. Oink, oink. We are not an attractive destination. Yeah, sure, we got Brock Bowers. Sure, we got Max Crosby. Sure, we got Christian Wilkins. And we got Tom Brady as a minority owner. But we are a pig right now. And we just got rid of Antonio Pierce. So let's make ourselves more attractive today and blow out the general manager, right? Bears still have their GM. Jaguars still have their GM. Patriots still have their GM. And we're going to make the pig a little bit more attractive to maybe make one of these hot coaches that are out there, like a Mike Vrabel or Ben Johnson, or if you even want to go Deion Sanders or Bill Belichick or Pete Carroll, whoever they may be, say, oh, okay, it's ugly. But if I squint a little bit harder right now, after today, yeah, I got the power. I got control. So now this isn't as bad as what I thought it was, because the way to win somebody over when you're not that attractive as a destination, you give them the entire key. So I would say the Ferrari of the Raiders, but that would be insulting to the Ferraris. So whatever rundown vehicle the Las Vegas Raiders are. That's what the Raiders did today. They put lipstick on a pig to try to make this job be more attractive. But at the end of the day, you could put lipstick on a pig. It's still a pig. Now, pig's pretty good. I love bacon. I do love me some bacon. Oink, oink. All right. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. I'll ask you a question here still. Quarterback you trust the most right now in the college football playoff. We have Drew Aller. We have Riley Leonard. We also have Will Howard. And you have Quinn Ewers. Who's the quarterback with the 4 remaining teams that we trust the most right now?
I think it's Quinn Ewers. I feel like it's him. I don't feel great about that. I feel like all 4 starting guys have a lot of question marks, but I think I would go Quinn Ewers as the number 1 guy.
So do I think that Quinn Ewers has the most upside? I don't. I think Drew Aller has the most upside. Like, I have some concerns about Riley Leonard. I do. Will Howard's good. That moment up against Oregon, how he got revenge on it, but it was not a good moment. So I look at Drew Aller as the one with the most upside, but the question is, who do I have the most confidence in? It is Quinn Ewers. Because Quinn Ewers, you know who he's kind of like? I'm not directly comparing him to this player in terms of play style. He's kind of like Dak Prescott, where Dak Prescott is a good quarterback. I don't think you're jumping through hula hoops to get Dak Prescott as your franchise quarterback. There's always that feeling of, oh, maybe we could do better than Dak Prescott, but statistically he's a very good quarterback. And you haven't won a national championship with Quinn Ewers. Dak Prescott hasn't won a national championship with the drama Dallas choking Cowboys. But with that being said, up until this year, the last 3 years, the Cowboys have consistently been in the playoff. So I look at Quinn Ewers. Could you do better? Yes. But you could also do a lot worse. And all Quinn Ewers has done at Texas has been to bring Texas back. They made the playoff last year. They won the Big 12. And in the inaugural season of them being in the SEC, not only were they in the SEC championship game, now he didn't play well and they didn't win that game, but you ultimately are the last team standing out of the SEC in the college football playoff. So I'm not saying like you're head over heels in love with Quinn Ewers, but it is slim pickings here when you look at the quarterbacks. The quarterback that I think could explode the most would be Drew Aller and pop off. But we've seen some halves, like the half up against USC. The first half, Drew Aller was terrible. And the second half, he was surgical. Quinn Ewers is just kind of the same heartbeat. Be some good, there'd be some bad. A lot of us want to see Arch Manning, but the guy wins a lot of games at Texas. Now, when we get to coach, Ryan Day has won a lot of games. Hasn't won a national championship, though, at Ohio State, and has had a lot of talent the last few years. Had the Michigan disaster, but then since then, they blow out Tennessee and they blew out Oregon. James Franklin. I know he's won a Big Ten championship before and just beat an SMU and Boise State doesn't mean that now we call you a big game coach. You have a moment to prove tonight if you can be a big game coach. Marcus Freeman has overcome the disaster of losing to Northern Illinois, hasn't lost the game since, and since then, they have been blowing out teams, and they just beat big bad Georgia. And then you got Steve Sarkisian at Texas, who, unfortunately, right, his problems are well documented. Been around a lot of places, college and NFL. But we've always used to joke, oh, is Texas back? Sark has actually brought Texas back. Where, yes, they have not won a national championship yet. But they won the Big 12 last year in their final season. Their first season, they showed they could do more than just hang with the big boys of the SEC when everyone's like, I don't know how that's going to fare for Texas. So out of those four coaches, Day, Franklin, Freeman, and Sark, who do you have the most confidence in?
I would go with Sark on this one.
See, I'm the same way. Because Sark has never fallen at Texas, like where he hits the floor. Ryan Day has had his moments just a month ago where he fell. Now he's got back up. James Franklin, his record in these big games is absolutely atrocious. And I like the stock of Marcus Freeman. And he beat Georgia. And hey, he's done something that Brian Kelly wasn't able to do. Win a playoff game. He's now won 2. But now you're back in that Brian Kelly level of, okay, it was the Final Four when Brian Kelly was in the playoff the 2 years. Now it's expanded to 12. But was Brian Kelly beating Georgia when he was at Notre Dame in the college football playoff? No, he would have never have. Even if that was a second-round matchup. Marcus Freeman did that. I mean, Manti Te'o on earlier in the week on why Marcus Freeman is better equipped right now to be the head coach at Notre Dame than if it was still Brian Kelly. So I like the stock of Marcus Freeman, but the background is not strong enough yet for me to say I have the most confidence in him. It is Sark. And you know what the craziest part about this is, though? How many times do we sit here and we say it's all on the coach, it's all on the quarterback? Do you think Texas, even though you have the most confidence at the quarterbacks remaining in Quinn Ewers and in coach and Steve Sarkisian, we agreed on that answer. Do you think Texas beats Ohio State with all that being said?
I'd be surprised.
Right? It's kind of crazy when you sit back and you look at it. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We will update you some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio with a news brief next. Also, the coaching carousel is back and spinning coming up in about 25 minutes from now at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific Time. We will have 6 experts from 6 teams, and we will try to make an educated guess on who the Pats, Bears, Jaguars, Jets, Raiders, and Saints will hire. But let's get the latest update in first with the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
And it's sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Your small business keeps you on the go. Progressive Commercial Insurance keeps your policy within reach with their easy-to-use mobile app. Learn more at progressivecommercial.com. For the second time in as many days, a game in Los Angeles had to be postponed because of the wildfires. This time it was the Hornets and Lakers. The Rams released a statement earlier today saying they're still planning to host Monday night's playoff game. However, there is an alternate site in Glendale, Arizona, if necessary. The Raiders are not only looking for a coach, they're also looking for a new general manager now, as Tom Telesco was fired just 1 year on the job in Las Vegas, further fueling speculation about a potential match with Bill Belichick. Carson Beck is staying in college, but not at Georgia. The quarterback entered the transfer portal after ending a disappointing season with an arm injury. Before the NFL playoffs begin over the weekend, college football takes center stage over the next couple of days. The semifinals kick off tonight with the Orange Bowl, where Penn State meets Notre Dame in a matchup of 2 of the game's historic powers, yet neither has won a championship since the 1980s. I'm Rich Ackerman.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on X. Our handle is INF Sports Network. That's INF Sports Network on X.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
And this portion of the show is sponsored by Hyundai. Now you can buy a new Hyundai from the comfort of your new home at Amazon. Visit HyundaiUSA.com for more details. Let's start it off with Drew Rosenhaus, the agent, the NFL powerful agent. He's also the agent for Tyreek Hill. He was on the Pat McAfee show today on ESPN. And this is Drew Rosenhaus on Tyreek Hill's comments after the season did come to a close where they lost to the Jets. And he basically said he wanted to get traded.
I'm proud of the toughness. Yeah. He showed up for every game. There are a lot of guys that didn't play for this football team. He showed up. Throw out the comments after the game. You're emotional. The guys on the team know Tyreek is a competitor. He's there for them. We represent 13 guys on the team. Not one of them has a complaint about Tyreek.
So still wants to be a Dolphin. That's the most important thing.
So let me just say this. I've got to have that conversation with Tyreek.
Okay.
I'm not going to speak for him.
Gotcha.
We'll discuss that. That's going to be really something that we work out over the... I'm not going to say he does, he doesn't.
Gotcha.
That's a discussion I'm going to have with him that I haven't had yet.
I'm going to reserve comment and play you the other clip as well. This is Drew Rosenhaus, once again on the Pat McAfee show, making it clear that Tyreek played through a really bad injury this year.
Back up to training camp. Tyreek's scrimmaging with the Washington Commanders, and he breaks his wrist. We have top wrist doctors saying to Tyreek, you need to get this operated on, you're going to miss the season. Tyreek says to me and the Dolphins, I'm not going to miss the season. I'm going to play. I want to be here for my team. This hampered him all year long. He deserves a lot of credit. I think at the end of the day, he's committed to this Dolphin football team. He had an excellent meeting with Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel. I believe that Tyreek, he's the least guy that people should be worried about for this organization. They have many more worries. Tyreek Hill's not one of them.
I appreciate the sliminess of Drew Rosenhaus there. And all agents have to be slimy to some level, and they're paid to go to bat for their guy, right? They're paid to go to bat for their guy and make their guy out to be the greatest thing in the world. You know, and I say this as someone that has an agent, right? Like, my agent better make me out to be the greatest talk show host in America, right? And negotiations and things like that. But think about it. Drew Rosenhaus makes you take the bait. Because I'm like, oh man, Tyreek Hill had this wrist injury. He's playing for the team. They're trying to make it out as if he is the best teammate in the NFL. When this is the same guy that is a captain. A captain! It's amazing to me. Like, my brain is exploding. He's a captain. Boom! Whoa! Wow! Why is Tyreek Hill a captain of the Miami bleeping Dolphins? Surreal to me. And that captain is the same guy that quit on his team, said, I'm not going back in. Then after the game, I don't want to talk to the media, and then say, I got to do what's in the best interest for me and my family, and I'm out. I'm done with the Dolphins. Now you have Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel. Who knows between those two, Dumb and Dumber, that we actually believe they had a conversation with Tyreek, right? That's what we were told. They had a conversation with Tyreek, and Tyreek doesn't want to get traded. So I thought this was going away. Now, Drew Rosenhaus is on McAfee, and he's saying Tyreek played through an injury. Respectable. Tyreek is the least worry of the problems for the Miami Dolphins. You know what? I know I'm bringing up Alec Ingold, and he's a fullback, and everyone's like, who cares about the fullback? Is Alec Ingold a distraction? Now, he's like the least of the Dolphins' problems. I get it, right? Big name, star, all that stuff. But you're in this position, and you're in this situation because of things your client said, and then after it was presented to us yesterday that he doesn't want to get traded, you have to sit there, I don't know. I haven't had that conversation if Tyreek wants to be back or not. What a cluster. What a cluster. But nothing to worry about here. Drew Rosenhaus walked into the room, right? He was the dog sitting in the chair with the fire around him. And he's like, nothing to see here, folks. Everything's fine. Every little thing's going to be all right. Tyreek Hill, he could do no wrong whatsoever in my book. You know what? Tyreek Hill, President Biden on his way out should give him a Nobel Peace Prize or something like that. Give him a Presidential Medal of Freedom. Now I'm going into a level I don't even know how to hand out boards and things like that. So, sounds right to me. Jeez. That's you know what, Drew Rosenhaus? Well done. You did a great sell job there. Great sell job. Max Crosby on the Let's Go podcast. Stu could be the... Stu, I talk about the dog, right, sitting around the fire saying everything's fine. You could be Will Smith, potentially in the living room. When in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the house gets robbed. Because the Raiders, you may be the only person left supporting that organization after this. Here's Max Crosby on the future with the Raiders. Remember, this is when Antonio Pierce is out. He did not know when he's on the Let's Go podcast yet that Tom Telesco was going to get fired the next day.
Obviously, we're not close right now. We're 4-13. That's not even close to what it should be and what the standard is. We lost, 4 more games than we did last year. We have great pieces. We do. No, we're not a complete roster at the moment. We know that, and we need to build and continue building this thing. That's the harsh, reality. But at the end of the day, if you have the right people and the right culture and the right people, the right mindset across the board when it comes to I will do anything it takes to win type attitude, those type of people around, you could turn around fast.
You think he's staying or going?
I think he will be traded.
You do?
I do.
Okay. I can't really... See, I want to say to Max Crosby, leave. He always shows his love for the Raiders. But how do you keep on showing love for an organization when it's weird to say the team doesn't love him back because they've always supported him, but when they just don't do anything right by you? So there we go on that front. Let's go to, you know what? I want to play this. This is the WIP afternoon show with our old boss, Spike Eskin. Listen to this encounter that they had with former NFL punter Sean Landeta. This was weird.
Freddie Mitchell was on the morning show today, and he mentioned that you and John Ritchie were often in the sauna together. But Freddie Mitchell mentioned that, how do I put this, that you would groom your under regions in the sauna.
Now, my first thing is, you want to call me during primetime radio in Philadelphia.
Yes.
And talk to me about something like that? Are you kidding me?
Well, I just want
to...
Yes.
Number two, I know this is TMZ radio, and I like Freddie, good teammate and all, but what he said was absolutely false. I totally denied being in the sauna with John Ritchie. That never happened.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now, may there have been a time where I was by myself and maybe had to shave a little bit? Okay. That's something maybe that goes on privately in a locker room, and there is a saying in the NFL that's supposed to go, what you see here and what you say here stays here and never leaves here. But obviously, Freddie must have wanted to try to get some people to go, oh, wow, and say this is what they used to do. So I'm disappointed at Mr. Mitchell. I'm going to have to speak to him about that.
Okay. Well, we're just having fun. It's a long time ago.
You call it having fun.
Yes.
But it's one guy embarrassing another guy talking about stuff. So believe me, I understand how that works, but very disappointed that he would say that, especially when it's not true. If something's true, then I can say, well, yeah, it might have been true, but
I actually didn't think it was
all in good fun, except for the guy you're trying to embarrass.
I'm not trying to embarrass you.
I got to understand who I'm dealing with, what the thing is. I mean, I would think with the Eagles having a playoff game coming up, they wouldn't be talking about guys in saunas, but anyway, I understand what I'm dealing with.
I would make Sean Landeta the next program director of 94 WIP. That's what I would do. There's a lot there. So, one, does Sean Landeta come off as a little sensitive? Yes. Two, I love Spike. For Spike to ask as if he doesn't understand why Sean sounds upset, and I don't know what they told him before they were bringing him on. We're not trying to embarrass you. You're talking about him shaving his down there, right? So that's, don't act so shocked. Also, why Freddie Mitchell is still a guest on any show in Philadelphia, give me a break. 4th and 26, sensational play. That dude is such a sleazeball, Freddie Mitchell. I've been around Freddie Mitchell. I've seen him at events. Sleazeball. We talk about how agents need to be slimy. Freddie Mitchell is a sleazeball. Absolutely. So Freddie Mitchell, I guess, goes on the radio in Philly and goes, "Oh, Sean Landeta used to trim below when he was in the sauna," and then you bring Sean. It's weird. That's how you know this week, Packers and Eagles, just in terms of the opinions on the game, are all, Philly's gonna win, Philly's gonna win, Philly's gonna win. If you have to go to that level of, ooh, Sean Landeta, back in the day when you were the punter and you were trimming down there, did you do it in the sauna next to John Ritchie, who is on the morning show for Sports Radio 94 WIP? But Freddie Mitchell, geez. Like, that's how Freddie Mitchell has to stay relevant. We got to talk about someone trimming their pubes in the sauna next to John Ritchie. Come on. What are we doing? Freddie Mitchell. That's an interesting guy. That's all I'll say. I've been around Freddie Mitchell and LeVar Ball once, and that was just an interesting experience. Freddie Mitchell would do anything for clicks, would do anything for clicks. So, not surprising that he would say something like that. And Sean, being so sensitive, makes me think it's true. Coaching Carousel coming up next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The 2024 season is over, and now teams are searching for their next head coach. Who will be coaching your team in 2025? Let's spin the wheel and get the coaching carousel underway.
Let the spinning wheel turn.
The New England Patriots.
That's right. It is the Coaching Carousel, and it is the Zach Gelb Show right here on the Infinity Sports Network. We have 6 teams that are looking for a new head coach. In this segment, we will go from city to city, and we will try to see who your team is going to hire for the 2025 football season. We start things off in New England with the Patriots, who just got rid of Gerard Mayo after 1 season. We welcome in a 3-time Super Bowl champion, does a great job with NBC Sports Boston covering the Pats, and that is Ted Johnson. Teddy, appreciate you doing this. Who do you have the Pats hiring in this upcoming cycle, and why?
Hey, Zach, good talking to you. You know, for me, it's a little bit easier decision just because one of the coaching candidates and by most people's estimation is the number one pick probably for the Crafts is my old teammate Mike Vrabel. Mike, I've covered Mike for a long time. He was down in Houston when I did radio down there at Sports Radio 610. I saw him coaching as the linebacker coach and D coordinator, and then of course what he's done there at Tennessee I've followed. So that's obviously the name that everyone's talking about up here, and so that's kind of my obvious choice. But there would be a caveat with that, and that would be, I would want to know if I'm Robert Kraft and I'm interviewing Mike, and it sounds like the interview is supposed to happen today, that I would want to know like who his offensive coordinator is going to be, and what is his overall offensive philosophy. Because I feel like there was times down there in Tennessee where I felt like it was a little bit of a, kind of typical of head coaches that were defensive minded guys in the past. They kind of have more of an archaic, old school look at how offense should be. And I felt like at times that's kind of what the offense looked like in Tennessee, was a little bit of an old kind of style of playing football. I get you got Derrick Henry and maybe Ryan Tannehill's your quarterback, and so that limits you to give him the passing game. But I just feel like Mike needs to bring an offensive mind with him for an offensive coordinator that is going to be forward thinking, that's going to be progressive. And that would really satisfy me. Partly because you got, honestly, Zach, I think you have a special player with Drake May. The jury's out. A lot of people don't, think he might not be as good as he maybe showed out to be because of the turnovers, and really only 1 win. And that's really the biggest kind of mark against him, is he only had 1 win this season. But I think the kid's special. I think he needs to be hitched with a special type of offensive coordinator. And if Mike brings a guy like that, then to me, it's a slam dunk deal. Mike Vrabel should be the next head coach here, because there's just so many really great qualities about the guy that I think he'd make an excellent head coach here.
Yeah, and whoever the new head coach is, and I think it's going to be Mike, they need more talent. Like, you take a look at this organization right now, they have $130 million in cap space. They got the 4th overall pick of the draft. We'll see what they do in free agency. But you talk about who could be coaching up that young quarterback in a Drake May. Would a name like Josh McDaniels as Mike Vrabel's offensive coordinator be satisfactory to you? Or is it, hey, he's been here for so long and he was there for so long, maybe you try something different moving forward?
I'm okay with it. I really am. I get why a lot of people are like, this is just a retread. This guy's come back. He's left. He's come back. He's left. You're going to bring him back again. What are we doing here? You know what? Typically, I would have a problem with that, but not if he's pitched to Mike. I think Josh is a great offensive mind. I think he knows what the heck he's doing when it comes to coaching offense. I think I think what happened in his tenure there with the Raiders, I think he's a lousy head coach. I thought the Raiders did a good job in hiring him because I thought he would learn from his lessons there from Denver. He didn't. And so I just think, he's not head coach material, but can he coach offense? Absolutely. Can he game plan offense? Absolutely. Everybody kind of talks about Josh McDaniels, Zach, and you know this. You follow this team very close. His scheme is too hard. Look, he's not going to start with Drake May with the offense that he was running for Tom Brady, and Tom Brady's 18th year in the league. He's gonna start from the beginning and slowly work up and build up. And so I'm okay with Josh McDaniels coming back here in the role of offensive coordinator as long as Mike Vrabel's the head coach. I'd have no problem with that because I think he is. I don't know if he's a full. He's like not maybe a progressive kind of. Doesn't have like these. The way he coaches offense isn't like he's doing anything new or inventive, but he knows how to look at teams' defenses, game plan for it, and make adjustments based on what they're doing throughout the game. And that, to me, is not all offensive coordinators can do that, but Josh certainly can. So I would be okay with Mike bringing Josh McDaniels here for sure.
So Mike Vrabel off the board. He's Ted Johnson. Let's get to our next team.
The Chicago Bears.
Okay, Mike Vrabel's off the board to the New England Patriots, and now we head to the Windy City where the Chicago Bears have to get this right to put Caleb Williams in a position to succeed. So we welcome in a friend to the program, and that, of course, is David Hall from 670 The Score. David, what do we got cooking here for the Chicago Bears? Who do you have them hiring as their next head coach and why?
Well, I really like Vrabel because of the fit personality-wise, but if he's off the board, you mentioned it, Caleb Williams, that's what this is all about, developing him, maximizing his potential as a franchise quarterback. There's only one guy ideal for that job on the board and available. Ben Johnson is the guy, the Lions offensive coordinator. There have only been 3 offenses in NFL history more prolific than this Detroit Lions version. Ben Johnson is inventive, he is creative, and he is consistent. And I think those are things the Bears need offensively to get the most out of their talent. Now, how is he in front of the room? That's always the question. How is the guy in terms of leadership? We don't know. And I think in Chicago, there's a fear that Ben Johnson reminds many people, self included, of Matt Nagy. He came in with Andy Reid's stamp of approval, didn't go so well after year 1. So you have those concerns. The Bears might be better off with a proven leader, a CEO type, a guy who can maybe come in a room and have some intimidation when he walks in. But Ben Johnson also is modern. He's young. And I think that he might be the right guy with the highest ceiling among the coaches available.
The last few weeks I've been saying this, right? And we've both shared this sentiment. It's either got to be Ben Johnson or it's got to be Mike Vrabel. But that's given the Bears the benefit of the doubt. After that press conference we heard the other day, it's tough to give the Bears the benefit of the doubt. Let's just say if Vrabel says, I'm not interested, or Ben Johnson says, I'm not interested, where do you see the Bears potentially going from there?
Well, the other 2 names on the list, I think, that would tell me that they at least understand how critical this phase is in their development and progress. Pete Carroll, done it before. Brian Flores, who carries that air of intimidation and that, I think, experience in Miami that he has learned from. I like guys, I tell you, when you are where the Bears are, and frankly, they don't know what they don't know, and it's hard for them to get out of their own way, I think you need somebody who has had success as a head coach. So on my tier 1 is Vrabel and Johnson, but also just below maybe I have Pete Carroll and Brian Flores. Because if you get somebody like that who would restore some credibility immediately, this franchise really needs that. They've got a list that is 16 deep of guys they want to interview. It's like a job fair. So if you're able to get somebody who can at least restore some of the confidence and really have the Bears behave like the NFL's 3rd largest market should, a team in Chicago should act, then I think you'd feel better about the direction of this franchise. Until then, all of the skepticism that you hear on the radio, that you read online, All of the skepticism and cynicism is appropriate.
Do you think they should have cleaned house? We know they got rid of Eberflus. Should Ryan Poles have been sent packing as well?
There's nothing that really Ryan Poles has done to deserve the reprieve he was given. He was 15-36 in 3 seasons. He presided over the second worst 3-year stretch in team history. I don't think that he ever should have traded Roquan Smith. I don't think that he should have been so quick to make some other moves that he made. He brought Matt Eberflus back last year. He hired the guy, for goodness sakes. How does that translate into an endorsement and a stamp of approval? I don't know. But they don't like a lot of change because George McCaskey has already presided over 5 head coaches, 4 general managers, and 9 offensive coordinators. He's trying to stabilize things. Good luck. I think Ryan Poles has been given a second chance. We'll see if he can take advantage.
He is David Hall from The Score, and he has the Chicago Bears taking Ben Johnson. Let's get to our next team.
The Jacksonville Jaguars.
To Jacksonville we go. The first 2 teams, the Patriots and Bears, have gobbled up the top 2 candidates on the market in Mike Vrabel and Ben Johnson. So let's see who the Jaguars will replace Doug Peterson with as we welcome in Jaguars team reporter JP Shadrick. JP, who do you have the Jaguars bringing to Duval and why?
Well, considering those 2 guys are gone, we're going to go with Todd Monken, a guy who's been at it for a long time at college and pro levels, of course, was a head coach for a few years in college, and then, of course, the offensive coordinator in the NFL for a number of years, back and forth to Georgia. He's seen it all, and it feels like experience probably matters at this point. Having an organization in place and certainly an offensive mindset to get the quarterback right for the Jaguars, I think that's a big reason why I would go with Todd Monken right now.
Yeah, so a few weeks ago I was saying I felt like it was going to be Ben Johnson, and then the Jaguars bring back Trent Baalke. I still think Ben Johnson could be in play for the Jaguars, but we'll have to see. How do you evaluate kind of the reaction to Trent Baalke coming back and now how it feels as if, from at least covering this in a media world, that it's changed the perspective of the Jaguars' job?
Maybe a little bit, but I mean, we heard Shad Khan, the Jaguars owner, speak the other day about that. He was asked about it and said, hey, if there's somebody that has a different idea, different plans, he's all ears, basically. He's going to listen to all things, all ideas of how to get this thing right, and whether that includes the GM or not. So it's Trent Baalke is part of the process. He's the general manager. They felt like the organization, the structure of the organization underneath him was strong enough to keep him around. They felt like the immediate change needed was on the coaching side to get them over the top in wins and losses. They had too many of the L's over the last year and a half. So that's why Trent Baalke's around, and that's why he's part of this process.
When you look back at the Doug Peterson era, started off very successful, right? You bring in an experienced coach, Super Bowl winner, and the last 2 years, we all know it just didn't go the Jaguars' way. Why ultimately did Doug not work the way that they envisioned it when they hired him 3 years ago?
Yeah, it was an unfortunate turn. They started 8-3 last year, then just struggled down the stretch. They had injuries. The quarterback was hurt 4 different times last year. And then, of course, we know what happened this year with the shoulder and then the concussion at the end of the season. They couldn't keep skill guys on the field around him. They were inconsistent running the ball. And as you heard the owner say the other day, Shad Khan said they were a little predictable at times on the offensive side as well. So that all added up. And then this year, the defense was just awful. I mean, they were near the bottom of the league in most every metric, couldn't take the ball away, big plays allowed, and there was a new defensive staff this year. So I think that might have been obviously a huge piece of why the change was made. But a lot of close losses, but close losses are losses, and there were way too many of them for Doug Peterson to stick around, unfortunately.
Last thing I'll ask you, JP Shadrick. So if it is Todd Monken, right, you explained why that could work with Trevor Lawrence. We know this team believes in Trevor Lawrence. The contract shows that. But why will Trevor ultimately turn around and start to be the player that people thought he could be when he was the number 1 overall pick?
Well, I mean, I think just the toughness needed, I mean, he's that guy that can go make a play for you. For better or worse, he might get hurt making that play for you, but you got to kind of slow him down and make sure he stays healthy. I think that's the thing. It's got to be an organizational front to keep him upright and healthy and on the field, because he's much more valuable on the field than he is in the training room, and we've seen that the last year and a half. And I think he has the mental mindset to be able to do that and adjust where he needs to keep himself upright as well, while having some toughness around him on the football team. This is a group that, when the going got tough, they wilted. And he's got to be the one that leads that effort in the locker room. And just hearing from him this week, it feels like he knows what they need to be, and he feels like he's the guy that can go out there and lead the way and get this football team across the finish line and just instill some more toughness in the group, mental toughness, physical toughness, all the above. They didn't have enough of that. Trevor Lawrence seems to have the ability to be able to do that.
So Mike Vrabel to the Patriots, Ben Johnson, of course, going to Chicago. And as you just heard from J.P. Shadrick, he has Todd Monken then getting selected as the next head football coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is the 2025 Zach Gelb Show coaching carousel, and we're coming on back after these short messages.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The 2024 season is over, and now teams are searching for their next head coach. Who will be coaching your team in 2025? Let's spin the wheel and get the coaching carousel underway.
Let the spinning wheel turn.
The New York Jets.
All right, welcome back into the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. The coaching carousel is open for business, and so far as we bring you 6 experts from 6 cities, we've had Mike Vrabel go to New England, Ben Johnson heading to Chicago, Todd Monken landing in Jacksonville, and now up are the JETS Jets. Antoine Staley does a great job covering the Jets for the New York Daily News, and he joins us right now to make his selection. Antoine, who do you have the Jets hiring in this exercise, and why?
I think Aaron Glenn makes the most sense, too. Obviously, his ties with the area. He was a player under Bill Parcells, ended up making a couple Pro Bowls as well. And, you know, he started out as a scout in the Jets organization, too, as well. So just to have that background, and especially considering the Jets need a guy that's a bit of a leader or being a program builder, considering the season that they've had the last couple of years, and expected to be a lot of turnover, especially coming off the Aaron Rodgers era. So I think, you know, having a guy like Glenn that can come in and hopefully do exactly what the Lions did, makes a lot of sense for the organization.
Now, I have a lot of friends that are Jets fans, and they go, okay, I'd be fine with Aaron Glenn, but why would he be any different than Robert Saleh? Because similar things were said about Robert Saleh when he came in, defensive-minded head coach, leader of men. So why could you see Aaron Glenn maybe being different than Coach Saleh?
Well, I think just, you know, the situation that he came in with the Lions, especially with Dan Campbell, who is also a program builder and a culture changer. I think just talking with a few people, both of those guys are a lot alike. They came into a really bad situation in Detroit, you know, sort of like the situation with the Jets, too. And he knows what it takes to win in the Jets organization. It's going to take a unique guy like Aaron Glenn, who obviously knows Woody Johnson and has a relationship with him, to want to, you know, help them get out of this dark place that they've been in, no pun intended, the last couple of years.
Well, when you get out of the darkness cave this year for Aaron Rodgers and he finally makes a decision, the Jets have a decision as well to make. What do you think's going to happen there? Do you believe Rodgers is back with the Jets next year?
I would be surprised. I mean, I don't know. They need a general manager, too. So, you know, until we know who the coach and general manager is, we're not going to know if Aaron Rodgers is coming back or not. Although he could retire just on his own accord. But, you know, I would put it at probably like 15-20% that he comes back next year, because I think both sides have kind of had enough. I think he doesn't necessarily want to come back to the Jets organization. And I think, you know, Woody Johnson, especially the things that we've heard throughout the course of the season, would like to move on and, you know, maybe get a younger quarterback in there.
Yeah, the last thing I'll ask you, Antoine Staley, and I think this is a ambiguous kind of question, and it differentiates from depending on who you ask. You know, some people look at the Jets as having a young roster that has some young talent. They don't have a long-term answer whether Rodgers is back or not at the quarterback position. And then Woody Johnson, going out on a limb here, isn't the greatest owner in the league. Like, how attractive do you think this job is? I know it's one of 32, but still, do you find this as an attractive job right now?
I wouldn't say it's the most attractive job, but I would say it is an attractive job because of the market. If you can help the Jets come out of this, you know, like they hadn't made the playoffs in 14 years, but if you could be the one that kind of reverse that, then you'll get a lot of praise within the organization too. And also you may get to pick your own quarterback as well. So there's something to be said for that too, instead of having a guy in place like a Trevor Lawrence. If you're not a big Trevor Lawrence guy, then you're not going to go to Jacksonville. But with the Jets, then it's open, whereas like Aaron Rodgers may not return. And even if he does, he's almost 42. He'll be almost 42 years old. And, you know, they're going to be looking to move on from him at some point.
Who says you can't go home? Aaron Glenn winding back up with the JTS Jets. He's Antoine Staley. Let's get to our next team.
Las Vegas Raiders.
Alrighty, Mike Vrabel to the Patriots, Ben Johnson to the Bears, Todd Monken to the Jaguars, and as you just heard, Aaron Glenn going to be coaching the Jets in 2025. Now we head to Vegas where Q Myers from Raiders Nation Radio is standing by. Q, appreciate the time as always. Who do you have the Raiders selecting as their next head coach and why?
Well, I'll tell you what, it took me a while to come up with this answer, thinking about the Raiders as an organization and what I felt like they needed the most. I felt like they needed someone that's been there, done that, has got some know-how, is kind of a Bob the Builder, and so that all roads led to Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll is the guy that is no longer coaching with the Seattle Seahawks. Obviously, he's interested in getting back into coaching, talking to the Bears already. It just makes more sense for a guy that knows what it looks like, what it smells like, how to get it done, who's got the skins on the wall to say, okay, this is how we're going to do it. We cannot be this organization that has a consistent carousel at the head coaching position and a lot of throwing it against the wall and hoping it sticks. Pete Carroll has a track record of getting it done, so that's why I ultimately led to Pete Carroll.
Yeah, the other day I predicted for the Raiders Brian Flores, but now that you hear that Tom Brady's going to have a big role in this search, and then the report that Brady was reaching out to Belichick, it feels like Brady is going big name hunting, and obviously Pete Carroll would fit the mold for that.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And, I mean, you think about the teams that he put together in Seattle and the way that he brought all those guys with all those different personalities and different walks of life together to form one bond and create a Super Bowl winner. The Raiders need that more than anything else. And they need a guy that's good at developing. And a lot of people have pushed back and said, Q, what about his age? I'm like, look, brother, he's got more energy than I do and you do combined. So not worried about that. I think that he'd be a really good fit with the Raiders and, you know, be able to also help develop a young quarterback, which we all know the Raiders need desperately.
And you look at the Raiders, they had the 6th overall pick in the draft last year. Immediately when the 2024 draft ended, I said it just feels as if they're going to find a way to get Shedeur Sanders. Is that still the belief that Brady, with his relationship with Shedeur, is going to try to trade up and go get Shedeur Sanders? And also, hey, could that mean with what Coach Prime said the other day, that he would love to coach both of his sons in the NFL, and that's the only way he would do it, that Shedeur is actually going to be playing with Pops in the NFL?
You know what? I'll tell you what. My hope is that the Raiders find a way to trade up and go get Shedeur because of that relationship with Tom Brady. And I cannot rule out. It's so funny, Zach. Like, I want to rule out, no, Coach Prime's going to stay there in Colorado. He's not going anywhere. But as you mentioned, he said he'd like to coach his sons. Getting Shiloh would be no problem. The Raiders are in position where they could trade to number 2 and go get Shedeur if they want to. I see a path where Coach Prime could do that. And honestly, would that not be the most Raider thing that you saw is Coach Prime and Shedeur both in Las Vegas? I mean, you want to talk about getting butts in the seats. There'd be a lot of butts in the seats. There'd be a lot of Raider Nation representing. I don't know how quickly they could win, but we saw what Coach Prime did at Colorado, so I cannot rule that out 100%, not at this stage of the game.
That is Q Myers from Raider Nation's Radio, taken, of course, Pete Carroll with the silver and black. Let's get to our next team.
The New Orleans Saints.
Okay, we reached our final stop in the 2025 Zach Gelb Show coaching carousel. So far, Mike Vrabel has landed in New England. Ben Johnson winds up in Chicago. We have Todd Monken going to Jacksonville. Aaron Glenn going home to the New York Jets. Pete Carroll landing in Las Vegas. And now let's welcome in Brandon Thomas, who covers the Saints for New Orleans.football. Brandon, who do you have the Saints hiring in this cycle with this exercise and why?
Well, since all those other names are off the board, I have the Saints taking a second chance on Brian Flores. I think he's a guy who has had experience just with two of the best coaches in the 21st century in Bill Belichick and Mike Tomlin. And I think he gets another crack at it with the Saints this time with a different set of eyes. It's not like back in 2019 when he joined Miami as the head coach and they were tanking for Tua at a certain point during that tenure. I think this time with some more experience under his belt, currently right now, I mean, he has the Vikings in a position that I don't think anyone outside of Minnesota thought that they would be in this season. And why not, man? He's going to be 44 years old by the time he takes the position, hypothetically speaking. And then, you know, he has that defensive mindset, and he's going to bring another just charge of energy to New Orleans that I really, frankly, think is needed down here.
Now, we all know whenever we talk about Brian Flores, so I hope he gets a job this cycle, it's always about the connection with the quarterback because how ugly it was in Miami with Tua Tagovailoa. How about Derek Carr? I know he's got 2 years left on the deal, but is he definitely going to be back with the Saints for next season?
Well, that's one of the big unknowns going into the season, and that's really a negative that's going to be on the list for him taking this job. It is a question of, well, who are your players going to be after this year? Because you don't know what it's going to be with Derek Carr going into the 2025 season. The stalwarts on defense in Tyrann Mathieu, Demario Davis, and Cam Jordan, you don't know what they're going to be in a year. You don't know even if some of those players will show up this season upcoming. And you locked in Alvin Kamara on the offensive side at running back. But outside of that, Chris Olave has a contract year coming up. Rashid Shaheed, he hasn't been able to stay on the field. We'll have to see what happens there. So it's really a whole lot of unknowns. And I think the way the Saints management kind of has played it throughout their time there, from Sean Payton to Dennis Allen, they're not going to just pull the plug on you right quick as if you were in New England or in Las Vegas with the Raiders. They're going to give you kind of time to grow. So I think this year, if he's the guy that's chosen, that it will be very interesting to see what happens at quarterback, because Spencer Rattler, even though he's came in and he's shown flashes, he hasn't won any games. So it's going to be a real question, one of the many big questions going into this year.
Just wondering, when you take a glance back at this season, not successful for the Saints, you look at their general manager in Mickey Loomis. Was there ever consideration on moving on from Mickey, in your opinion?
No, in my opinion, no. I don't think that was ever on the table. I don't think that was even honestly an option. There was, a little bit of a disagreement between the firing of Dennis Allen, between him and ownership, but I never think it was a option even on the table to move on from him at a certain point. He's a guy who's been here. He's a guy who bought Sean Payton and bought Drew Brees and bought success kind of to the city at a certain point. So we'll have to see what happens moving forward, but I don't think that was ever on the table.
He is Brandon Thomas. He covers the Saints for NewOrleans.football. Brandon, appreciate you doing this.
Hey, no problem, man.
Monken. Then ultimately we had the Jets with Antoine Staley going with Aaron Glenn. Q Myers representing the Las Vegas Raiders, rocking and rolling with Pete Carroll, and the Saints via Brandon Thomas select Brian Flores. We'll react to the coaching carousel results when we come on back. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Update time first. Here's the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
There's one name that keeps floating around, and that's Bill Belichick to the Raiders, and speculation only grows with the team firing GM Tom Telesco today after just one season and 2 days after they let go Antonio Pierce. After a disappointing season that ultimately ended with an injury, Carson Beck is leaving Georgia, entering the transfer portal. Tonight, one half of the national championship game will be set in college football. The semifinals kick off the Orange Bowl with Penn State facing Notre Dame, which has won 12 in a row and 2 wins away from its first title since 1988. Head coach Marcus Freeman said the road isn't easy.
As Coach Franklin said, I have a lot of respect for him and the job he's done in college football. And this football team is a very good one that we have to continue to prepare for. We've got to use these next 24 hours to finish our preparation in anticipation of this great opportunity that lies ahead.
And tonight's game between the Hornets and Lakers in L.A. has been postponed because of the wildfires. The NFL has been monitoring the situation and has a contingency plan for Monday's playoff game, but as of now, that game's still going to be played at SoFi Stadium. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Hey, like us on Facebook. Our handle is INF Sportsnet. That's INF Sportsnet for our Facebook page. This is the Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. You know, I didn't say this to Hickey yesterday, and he's off today, so I can't say it to him to his face, Stu, because you know me. I'll just say things to people's face. I don't really care, and I don't think Hickey would ever get mad at this. But obviously, we're not the only show here on the network that streams on YouTube. Maggie and Perloff does. Ryan Hickey does when he does his shows. JR now, Monday through Friday, I see is streaming. And also Shep if I can mention his name, streams on the weekends as well. So when you start to do a stream or you're new to doing a stream, not that I'm an expert on the stream, I think sometimes people try too hard for the cameras. I'm just going to be honest. So 2 things that I saw as I was jumping into the streams. One had to do with Manny Rodriguez, who is the new Pete Bellotti, if you listen to this network for years, on the morning show. So he's the associate producer. And then Ryan Hickey as well, because I always listen to Hick at Night, one of my favorite weekend shows on the network from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern time each and every Sunday. And when I see Hickey coming back from break, Stu, this dude is dancing. He's like letting out screams. I know that sometimes there's a nervous energy when you do a radio show, but Hickey is like jamming out. And then I was tuning into my favorite morning show in national radio, Maggie and Perloff, and I see like Manny Rodriguez doing some dance, which I don't even know if you could call it dancing, because it was offensive to people that actually dance. So I put it out on my social media a few days ago and asked who was dancing better. But Hickey and Manny, and I love them both, right? They have worked on my show before. I will always go to bat for Manny Rodriguez. I will always go to bat for Ryan Hickey, just as long as it doesn't have to do with anything dancing. Like, I don't know. I think we just show up, we do our stream, right? We show up, and it's, all right, the stream is spying on the radio show. And I don't think, Stu, I'd actually be impressed, Stu, if you came in one day and you elected to bust out a dance move or something like that.
Yeah, the only time I'm dancing is at a wedding. That's about it. That's all you're going to get out of me.
You liquored up at a wedding? You got to be liquored up.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
What's your favorite beer, by the way? That was asked to me by Bobby Buckwheat. Give a little shout out to him in the YouTube chat. He goes, what's your favorite beer? What is your favorite beer?
I love Guinness, and I really like Stella.
You're a Guinness guy?
Yeah, those are my 2 favorites,
Is
I would say.
Is that recent because you're a soccer snob now, so it's like, oh, let's get a big manly pint of Guinness?
That is a popular soccer beer. No, I've liked it for years. I've liked that for years. Same with Stella.
Okay.
Heineken's good, too. Like, those are probably my 3 favorites, I would say.
So my favorite beer is when I'm in Vermont. I love a heady topper. And you don't have to drink many of those, and it is very easy to fall asleep on a heady topper. I don't know. No, I know what the alcohol percentage is in it. So it is very easy to get loopy on a heady topper. But every time I'm in Vermont, I'm skiing. And for some reason, I'm a dope when I ski. So, like, you get up early, you go to the mountains. You don't really eat when you're there. Like, you go into the lounge area, but I'm there for the skiing. I'm not there for just sitting in the lounge and eating like chicken fingers and French fries. I'll occasionally when I go skiing, I don't mind stopping. They do like a chocolate covered waffle up in Vermont and they have a stand. So that's like quick, go and then ski and eat something. But that's not really a meal. So every time I go skiing in Vermont, I will ski on the slopes all throughout the day. And then you get back and like you're with a group of guys or gals or whatever, and you start drinking. And when you have not had a lot to eat during the day and you start to drink, that alcohol hits you real quick. But Heady Topper does have a high alcohol percentage. So I love Heady Topper. I also love, when I'm in Wisconsin, Spotted Cow. I could drink 1,000 Spotted Cows. That doesn't sound right when you say it. But if you know the beer, you know the beer. So those are my 2 favorite. But you got to be in the area to get those. So if I'm just in a bar and I'm like, hey, bartender Jack, hit me 2 beers, I would say Yingling and then also Corona would be probably my 2 favorite beers. I've become a big whiskey bourbon kind of guy, though. I do not mind when I'm at a wedding going a little whiskey ginger, an old fashioned, a Manhattan, something like that. Usually what I end up rocking and rolling with. So that's what I end up doing so when it comes to my drinking game these days. My drinking game, though, is rather lame. I went to Mason Jar last night, and I was seeing my cousin who just got engaged, and my cousin's good friend was there. They walk in. They go, "You're not drinking?" I go, "No, I'm not drinking." I go, "It's a Wednesday night. I don't want to be a slug tomorrow. I want to wake up, have no hangover. I want to go to the gym, do my hour elliptical ride, go into work, Got a big football show here, coaching Carousel. We got Penn State and we got Notre Dame. I don't want to be sitting in my bed in the morning, dreading to get out of bed, not going to the gym, and walking my less than fat ass now to the bagel store and getting a greasy bacon, egg, and cheese, well done bacon. I don't want to do that. My cousin last night, 2 drinks, doubles. 2 drinks, doubles. And he was drinking I don't know what alcohol, what tequila he was drinking, but he went out of his way to get a fancy schmancy tequila. How much do you think just one of the shots were that was in his drink for the drink that he was, just one?
Yeah. New York City bar area.
Little guesstimation.
Say at least, I would say 12. More. Yeah, this is like, if you said, you did say it was like a fancier.
I thought he was out of his bleeping mind.
Is it like closer to 20?
Not even close. The waiter said, "Sir, you want to get a double of this?" It was $48 a shot. He got a double. So I'm not great at math. 48 plus 48 is 96. And I just did that on my calculator. Now you do that, times that by 2, that's $192. $192 off 2 drinks. The bill comes. And I'm not Mr. Cheapo when it comes to the, like, I usually don't like itemizing the bill, if I'm being fair. Like, I hate when you go out with a group of people and it's like, oh, I got the chicken, you got the steak, oh, you got the salmon, you got the onion rings, you got the polenta fries. Like, if you're going out like couples or you're going out like with your buddies and you're all in the same realm in terms of what you're ordering, fine. But when I sat there and just got a brisket platter with the side of green beans, and then I also got a side of jalapeno cornbread, which was delicious, and all I drank was high-quality H2O, I ain't splitting that bill evenly. So my grand total with tip, I think, was like $44. And I don't even know what the heck my cousin
One of his drinks was more than,
it was wild.
Well more than that.
Well more than that. I sat there and I'm like, how stupid are you? $96 for a double. A double. I couldn't believe it. And I said to him, I'm like, is this he's like, it's the only alcohol I drink. I forget what the name of the tequila was, but I go, you could have just bought the bottle. Just buy the bottle next time and take it home with you or do something like that. And I guess they were low on this because Stu, he wanted a 3rd drink. And the restaurant said, we actually ran out of the alcohol that you wanted. It was the end of the bottle. So if you would like, we will give you a complimentary shot of something else. And they brought him over a shot and he goes, I'm not drinking whatever that was. I couldn't believe that. I felt at that table like such a peasant, if I'm being honest. Could you imagine a $96 drink? What's that, the $700 drink that they have, a Louis the 14th? Sometimes you go to a restaurant and you see like a $400 shot. And I go, who in their right mind is spending like $400, $500 for a shot? I couldn't understand that whatsoever. That's wild. Hey, don't get me wrong. I think everyone likes to get a good buzz, have a fun time. You better do a lot more for you if you're spending that much money on alcohol. This is weird. It was crazy. I couldn't believe it. So anyway, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. When we get to, I'll tell you this. I don't think Manny and Hickey were having a $96 drink. They were dancing, I think, sober. I would like to see those guys both dance drunk because their dancing skills sober on the YouTube channel has just been horrendous. So anyway, the coaching carousel results. Patriots won first, Ted Johnson, Mike Vrabel. What's the likelihood of the Patriots hiring Mike Vrabel? I would say it's about a 75% chance. And early in the week, I would have said 90, 95%. I still think it's going to happen. This is an NFL term. I still think it's more likely than not in the Patriots hiring Mike Vrabel. But Could you maybe have the Raiders now getting involved with them firing Tom Telesco and giving Vrabel all the power? Yes. Could Vrabel be more enamored with the Chicago Bears? Potentially. I ultimately think Vrabel will be the Patriot coach, but I'm at a 75% of chance, and he is interviewing today. Then we had David Hall from The Score in Chicago take Ben Johnson with the Bears. Stu, I think this is the thing I vacillate the most on right now. Earlier in the week, I would have said Ben Johnson's not going to the Bears. And then you find out that Trent Baalke's staying with the Jaguars, and everyone keeps on saying, oh, that's going to take them out of the running. And when Shad Khan and JP Shadrick even said it, and JP said, hey, if I had the second pick, he told me off the air that he would have picked Ben Johnson. But Ben Johnson was already off the board to the Bears. But I look at Ben Johnson. I still think the Jaguars are in play. Maybe the Raiders now come into play with them having their GM and head coach open. I still think that's unlikely. But Ben Johnson to the Bears, I'm just programmed where the Bears are always going to find a way to mess it up. So like everyone could look and identify the Bears and say, hey, it should be Vrabel or it should be Ben Johnson. And then if not, Pete Carroll. But if it's not any of those three, I'll be fascinated by who the Bears hire. Where's your percentage of chance? I'm at like 38% that the Bears end. Like I could see it, but I'm afraid of the Bears doing something stupid here. Where are you at with the Bears when it comes to Ben Johnson?
It seems logical, which, like you said, it maybe is not smart because the Bears are not always logical. I'll say like 50%.
Okay.
I think Ben Johnson, if I had to be right, I think he'll be the Bears coach next year.
I think that'd be great for the Bears. Now, you're in the NFC North. You got to go up against your pal Dan Campbell, but it would at least give some hope for the Bears. But they did have hope heading into this season with Caleb Williams. But now you would have universal hope with the GM, with the not the GM, but with the quarterback and also the head football
Definitely
coach.
not the GM.
Yeah. He was on Dumber and Dumbest right here on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. It should be a show. We should bring in 3 people on the weekends. Dumb, Dumber, and Dumbest on the Infinity Sports Network. That could be the name of our show. Myself, Samter, and Stu. Dumb? Well, hold on. I'm not going to order there Dumb, Dumber, and Dumbest. I won't do it. I don't want to do that. But that could be the show. The Zach Gelb Show, featuring Zach Gelb, Stu Kovacs, and Michael Samter. Dumb, Dumber, and Dumbest.
It can be like a rotating hierarchy.
We could do power rankings each and every week. Stu was dumb this week. Samter was dumber. Gelb was the dumbest. I kind of want to do the old jingle. Jaguars. JP Shadrick took Todd Monken. That's another one. If you don't get Ben Johnson, where do the Jaguars go? You would think offensive-minded head coach, and that would be Todd Monken. The Jets, that's the one. Like, I look at all these selections. I think the Patriots ultimately get Vrabel, and I think the Jets ultimately get Aaron Glenn. If I had to say 2 are going to be right on this list, I would say those. Antoine Staley, Stu, ends up taking for the Jets Aaron Glenn. I feel like those are going to be the 2.
Aaron Glenn makes a lot of sense. Played for the Jets, knows the New York market. I just think it just seems like it's a decent hire.
And the only thing is, I think from a perception standpoint, people will say, oh, they just had the defensive-minded head coach before and Robert Saleh. Maybe you want to go the offensive side of the ball, but at least Aaron Glenn is going to want to be there and has some investment in the organization since he was a part of the organization many years ago. Raiders, Q Myers ends up taking Pete Carroll. Now, Tom Telesco's out. It wouldn't be a bad hire hiring Pete Carroll. Anyone that's like objecting to Pete Carroll, an organization like the Raiders, the Bears, the Jaguars, the Jets, the Saints, like organizations that don't know a lot about winning, you're not in a position to reject a coach like Pete Carroll. Like, if you're a fan. Because you could say, oh, he's old. Pete Carroll goes places, he wins games. Your organizations hire a lot of coaches that go to other places because they can't win games in your organization. So I think Pete Carroll would be fine, but I'm curious now with Telesco out if that gets Vrabel or Ben Johnson to flip off what they're most likely leaning towards right now because there's not a GM in place there. And then finally, the Saints, Brendan Thomas, he ends up taking Brian Flores. I think that would be a feel-good story if Brian Flores could get a job in the NFL. Now, he doesn't have a quarterback there. Like, Derek Carr's there, but is he going to be there for that much longer? I don't know. But Brian Flores is someone that I would like to see get another opportunity. I just wish there would be more talent in a spot where you'd be going to because, man, you don't get a lot of time in the NFL. And the Saints, like, they're not horrible, but there's not a lot of hope. And I wouldn't say they're anywhere close to being really good. So that's an organization that needs a lot of work. So those are our results from the coaching carousel. Ted Johnson, the first pick, goes with Mike Vrabel. David Hall, the second pick, he goes with Ben Johnson. J.P. Shadrick with the Jaguars had Todd Monken. Antoine Staley with the Jets had Aaron Glenn. Raiders, Q Myers ended up selecting Pete Carroll, and the Saints end up rocking and rolling with Brandon Thomas as our selector, and he did take Brian Flores. All righty. We will take a break. It is the Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network, 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. I don't know why this week I keep on just folding up the rundown. And then I go to it to tease what's going to come up next. And I go up, I got to unfold the rundown, and then people are going to think I'm a slob because I have a sloppy rundown right here that's all just crumbled up. The road to greatness for Penn State and Notre Dame. The road away from good to great. We'll get to that next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond. He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
That's what I'm talking about. Hour number 3 of our radio program. Stu, you ready? The Notre Dame Fighting Irish are 60, and I mean 60 minutes of football time away from punching their ticket to the national championship game. And the only team that's standing in their way is big, bad Penn State. Ay, ay, ay. And you know what? I think there's a lot of people out there right now that are very confident in the Penn State Nittany Lions. With Drew Aller, we'll see how healthy Abdul Carter is tonight, Tyler Warren, and I think there's a lot of people that could be disrespecting Notre Dame heading into this game. And I don't know about you, Stu. In terms of confidence, I'm picking Notre Dame 23-20. But if we get into the studio tomorrow and Penn State beats Notre Dame, I obviously would not be stunned. But there is an arrogance that I sense from the Penn State fan. And when I say the Penn State fan, Hickey, and then also if you think Hickey is bad, I have a buddy, Barry Eisman, who is Penn State #1 sycophant. And he went out of his way to make it clear today that he is dangerously confident with Penn State. And he thinks Penn State not only going to win, he thinks Penn State going to win big. And to me, I just say to the Colt, I wouldn't start celebrating before you walk off the field with the victory. Because, right, when Hickey joined us yesterday, Stu, I don't know what was alarming to you, but this is what was alarming to me. He was right away the first one to point out how great the Penn State defense is. Penn State defense is very good. But not give any credit to how good the Notre Dame defense is and how Xavier Watts is one of the best defensive players in the country. Hickey was also so quick to point out how, Jeremiah Love is walking around wounded and how that leg is all banged up and he's limping. But no mention of the Abdul Carter injury. And we don't know how healthy Abdul Carter is going to be for this game on the defensive side of the ball for Penn State. And Abdul Carter, he should be a top 5 pick in the draft. So I think it's interesting the flaws that the Penn State fan is willing to point out with Notre Dame, but they're not mentioning any concerns that they could have with their own team. Ultimately, I think these teams are very even. I do. I know this doesn't make for the best radio in the world because people want to, hear opinions. This team's going to win. They're going to win by 40. All right? Yeah, this is a toss-up game. I think it's 23-20. I don't feel great with the prediction. I'm taking Notre Dame. I'm not going to pick Penn State. That just ain't happening. But if you tell me tomorrow we're sitting here praising Drew Aller and we're talking about Tyler Warren being a stud and Abdul Carter playing and playing well enough, it wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. But I look at Notre Dame. I think Riley Leonard is going to be enormous tonight. And I'm not saying Riley Leonard needs to be 330 passing yards, Riley Leonard. Just can't make the mistakes. He's got to manage the game, which he's been doing ever since the Northern Illinois game. And if they load the box, you got to be aggressive. Like I look at early on with Boise State. Boise State early on knew that the Penn State game plan was going to be take away Ashton Genty and load the box and force Maddox Matson to throw. I didn't think Boise State early on was aggressive enough with vertical shots down the field. And you know who could be a big player tonight? Jordan Faison. He could be a big player tonight who in their first game led the team in receptions in their playoff victory up against Indiana. A guy like that, lacrosse player, and that would hurt the Penn State fan. Chris Hogan's our guy, the lacrosse player. Faison, national champion in lacrosse. And the last, they won the Sun Bowl MVP last year. That's a big award, right? But then this year has been really good for Notre Dame. I think that's an X factor in the game tonight for Notre Dame. So I look at this game. I can't sit here and say I want Notre Dame to win. I am not going to hide this here, Stu. I want you to be happy. I work with you now. I want Notre Dame to win the game. But both these programs, they really do mirror one another. Where for years, the perception about Notre Dame is, when Brian Kelly was there, they win games, right? They're in a lot of big games, but how many of those games that are big do they win? Not a lot. Like, they have been stuck on the good, very good standard. We view their brand as elite, but they don't carry the same clout and gravitas as an Alabama, Clemson when Dabo had them humming, Georgia with Kirby Smart, Ohio State with Urban Meyer, right? Like, those are teams you knew could win a national championship and were expected to win a national championship. When you look at Notre Dame, it's always, all right, you get there, but then when they get to the big game, they become Notre Dame. Penn State, same storyline, especially the last 3-4 years. They win all these games. They play Michigan, they urinate down their leg. They play Ohio State, they urinate down their leg. And what is interesting here is I do believe that the monkey is off the back of Notre Dame. Where Notre Dame heading into this one, if I look at who's under more pressure tonight, and hey, everyone's under pressure. You're 60 minutes away from going to a national championship game. But if I say if there's more pressure on Penn State, I believe that because Notre Dame the other week beat Georgia. And say what you want with Gunnar Stockton being the quarterback. Say what you want, that's a vulnerable Georgia team. Notre Dame beat Georgia. That's still a big boy, big, bad program. Even when they're down, there's a lot of programs that would, like 98% of them would still love to beat Georgia. So Notre Dame last week got that monkey off their back. Penn State, no disrespect to SMU, no disrespect to Boise State. Penn State still hasn't got that monkey off their back. And that's something I want to see tonight in a program that's very similar to them, right? Notre Dame, Penn State, very similar. Good defenses. We've seen the special team play for Notre Dame, which has been unbelievable so far in the playoff. Knock on wood, knock on wood. Not John Gruden, knock on wood if you're with me, but knock on wood there. And then offensively, yes, on paper, I trust the Penn State offense more than I do trust the Notre Dame offense. But if Jeremiah Love is healthy, that's as good of a running back as there is in college football. And I think next year, Jeremiah Love could be a Heisman Trophy candidate. So those are my thoughts on the game. Defense, special teams, I feel good with Notre Dame. And then it's what is Riley Leonard going to do if his running backs get taken out in terms of how productive they could be. But coaching-wise, I give the slight edge to Marcus Freeman over James Franklin. Because Marcus Freeman in a short amount of time, and yes, I get it, there was a loss to Stanford. Yes, I get it, there was a loss to Marshall. Yes, I get it, there was a loss to Northern Illinois. But he won a big game last week. He beat Georgia. If James Franklin's going up against Georgia last week, is Penn State here? That I don't know. I can't sit here confidently and say that, because you look back at Penn State and Boise State, and you also look back at Arizona State and Texas. And the reason why I'm bringing up Arizona State and Texas is I thought on that Tuesday night, because it was New Year's Eve, I thought on New Year's Eve, you saw Penn State get out to that good start, and then they could have slammed Boise State, but they kept on leaving Boise State around, and Boise State just didn't have the punch to capitalize. Then, the following day on New Year's Day, Texas and Arizona State, Texas got out to that big start, and Texas is a better team for most of the game, but they left the door open for Arizona State, and for a while, not only did Arizona State punch back, they got that game into overtime. So, I'm curious, with that being said, is Penn State going to have that killer instinct right out of the gate? Because you saw what happened with Notre Dame. Not that they got off to this great start up against Georgia. It was a little sloppy, if we're being honest. But at the end of the half, that game changed. And then to start the half, when they're sitting up there, I think it was 20-3 after the kick return, that's like, all right, Notre Dame did their job. Not that you were coasting in the second half, but you felt really good. Can Penn State deliver that punch tonight where Notre Dame's sitting there and saying, oh, we got to get away from what we want to do. We got to throw. And can Penn State not only deliver that punch early, but then capitalize off of it and then run Notre Dame off the field, which they couldn't do up against Boise State for a little bit. So that's what I'm kind of looking for here. But I think these teams are very similar, and I believe it's coming down to a field goal. So I'll go Notre Dame, Stu, for you, 23-20.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I think it's a toss-up as well. I think Notre Dame will win, but it'll be by like a point or two in the low 20s, high teens.
This is a sweated out game.
Very much so.
See, we've seen a lot of blowouts in the college football playoff. The first round stunk. The second round, outside of Arizona State and Texas, there was nothing. There was really no good game there because Notre Dame and Georgia ended up being a bore. Obviously, Penn State, Boise State ended up being a bore, and I thought Ohio State, Oregon was going to be a classic. Ohio State said, yeah, thanks for showing up, Oregon. Quack, quack. We're getting rid of you. We're going to make you look like the ducks at Sankey Peking Duck House in Philadelphia that hang in the window. And that was ugly. Absolutely ugly with the Oregon Ducks. So, we're due. We are due. And we got a little bit Texas, Arizona State, but that game was a bore for 3 quarters, if I'm being honest. And then the final 7 minutes of the fourth quarter, it ended up being good. I hope we get a wire-to-wire, down-to-the-wire type of game where it's just back and forth, even if it's not the prettiest thing on the field, because I think this is going to be a little sloppy tonight, I do.
Yeah, I would say my biggest concern from the Notre Dame perspective would be if Penn State were to score early on, and then Notre Dame has trouble moving the ball. I just do not. I like Riley Leonard, but I do not have confidence in him playing from behind by 7, 10, 13 points.
You liked Sam Hartman more last year.
Yeah.
That's why I did struggle, even though I picked Notre Dame to get to the championship game before the start of the playoff. Don't ask me who I picked them to go up against. I'll tell you anyway. It was Oregon. That didn't work. But I look at when Riley Leonard went there, I remember saying Sam Hartman was the better quarterback. And that's why I didn't understand why everyone was slobbering, or Pat Boyle was slobbering over Notre Dame before the start of the season. And then they had a good game up against A&M, and then week 2, they did not have a good game up against Northern Illinois. But since then, that's a team that responded to adversity. And it's kind of nuts that throughout this entire season, Penn State is 60 minutes away from going to a national championship game. And who have they beat? Who have they beat in their 2 biggest games of the season so far? And it's a format. You get there. Like, if James Franklin wins tonight, I can't say any negative word about him for the rest of the season unless in the national championship game they're going blow for blow and he just makes a boneheaded decision. That's the only out. But if Penn State gets to the national championship game tonight, I do believe a lot of that public pressure, which I have been leading the charge on with James Franklin, trust me, I do think a lot of it fades away because this would be the big boy victory tonight. But this year, their 2 biggest games of the season, Ohio State and also the game up against Oregon, they didn't win either of them. So their best performance, I thought, so far this season was the second half up against USC. So this is a huge spot tonight for Penn State. So that's where we're at right now. Did you figure out what you're doing for food, by the way? I'm lame tonight. I'm telling you that right now.
Ooh.
What did you end up doing?
I'm taking your advice from yesterday, and I'm going to do the pizza and wings from the same place.
Good. So Stu's going to be packing in the pizza, packing in the wings, blue cheese, right? You're a blue cheese guy?
No, we've been over this.
Oh, yeah, you're a ranch guy.
Ranch
and cat guy. Hey, ranch and cat guy. Come on. What do you do? TikToks of Taylor Swift as well? There's nothing wrong with that.
It's in my algorithm, I'll say that.
Yeah. So when Thurman Thomas joined us yesterday and looked mortified when I asked him ranch or blue cheese because he was so disgusted that I would even throw ranch in front of him, you were saying, not a big fan of Thurman Thomas anymore.
I love Thurman Thomas. I just don't like blue cheese.
Yeah. I don't get the appeal. Your girlfriend, though, likes blue cheese, right?
She does.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, she's definitely blue cheese over ranch.
You know what so this is what I'm doing tonight. It's lame. This is not guy food, football food. I am dropping the ball on this, and you should say practice what you preach because I got on Stu yesterday for wanting to basically have no plan here. I have chicken sausage. I'm throwing that in the air fryer. I am making rice with chicken sausage with some onion and what else did and some green beans. So I'm just making like a healthy rice dish pretty much is what I'm doing. But
tomorrow or this weekend, I'm sure there's something big planned.
Yeah, of course. Sunday, I'm going to Philadelphia for the Eagles and Packers game. And I will have to stop off at the Amorosa Roll tailgate, and I will get a nice cheesesteak. But really, the press box in Philadelphia, elite. They had steak last time. They have some really good cookies. They have chicken fingers. And I see our guy John Kincaid. We sit down and we're just like feasting in the press box. So yeah, Sunday's going to be a fat day. But you know where I'm going Saturday? This is going to be the fattest day. You know, they have Fat Tuesday in New Orleans. This is the Zach Gelb Fat Tuesday coming up on a Saturday. My family and my dad's friends, so family friends, like 25, 30 of us, wild card weekend the last 2 years. 3 years now. We go to Harold's in Edison, New Jersey. And Harold's Delicatessen in Edison, New Jersey, you order an omelet. It's like an 18-egg omelet. You order pastrami. The pastrami is like chest up on 6'4" Zach Gelb. A pancake is the size of this studio. So we're going to Harold Saturday. First wild card game is the Texans, of course, against the Chargers at 4:30 on Saturday. So I will be needing a wheelbarrow to get me back into, or trolley to get me back into the city to park my ass on the couch to go watch the game. So that's what I'm doing. By the way, just to get serious here for a second. Obviously, I've seen what's been going on in L.A. with the wildfires. And man, my heart just goes out to everyone that's affected by this. And I saw a video it was a local newscast, and they were talking to a guy who was 91 years old, and his entire house, unfortunately, got burnt to the ground from the wildfires. And he said, he was crying, obviously. And he was like, I'm tough. He's like, even though I'm 91 years old, however old he was, it's escaping my memory right now, but in that range, he goes, but we're going to build everything back up. So obviously we have a lot of listeners on the West Coast. I hope everyone is okay. I have a buddy of mine who had to evacuate, who lives in Los Angeles. So just absolutely horrible with what's going on. And we wanted to send our best wishes to you right now. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
All righty, Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. So I'm fascinated to see if Brian Flores is going to get hired in this coaching cycle. This was the other day. Ryan Fitzpatrick on his own Fitz and Wit podcast with Andrew Whitworth. He blasts Brian Flores' tenure in Miami. That's the headline. Let's see if he actually blasted the tenure of Brian Flores in Miami. Go ahead.
Which version Brian Flores are we getting? And in year one with Miami, he was likable, he was relatable, he demanded a lot out of the players, but he was also able to get the best version of his players. But as his tenure went on in Miami, he kind of became unrecognizable. I think in the interviews, he'll be likable, he'll be relatable. But when people say, okay, give me somebody from Miami that coached under you as a reference so we can talk to them, I think he burned a lot of bridges there. I think he alienated himself from the entire staff. I think by the end of his time there, he became a dictator. He ruined a lot of those relationships, and his ego grew so big that there wasn't any room for anyone else.
So I think it's a fair critique. Now, I could say, right, guys, when you get a second chance, could be better. We've seen coaches before, right? Pete Carroll, Bill Belichick. Their first go-arounds at it being a head coach weren't good. I know for Pete Carroll, it ended up being his third go-around where he started to succeed as a head coach in the NFL. For Belichick, it wasn't, even though he won a playoff game, wasn't wonderful in Cleveland and then became one of the greatest coaches of all time. So those things happen where you're better on the second job. Now, with that being said, for every time you do get a second opportunity, look at Josh McDaniels, right? Broncos disaster, Raiders even worse than the Broncos, you could argue. Adam Gase. Made the playoffs actually once with the Dolphins. Then got another opportunity with the Jets and was an unmitigated disaster. So I do think there's some pause with Flores, but I at least want to see it. Because even with the way that Brian Flores is portrayed in the NFL, and I would think his biggest problem when he was with the Dolphins is that he just was never able to connect with the quarterback, and he could not stand Tua Tagovailoa, and that relationship got ugly. Now, Brian Flores, he was around Tom Brady. And Brian Flores viewed Tua Tagovailoa as someone that wasn't going to win him a Super Bowl. Now, is Tua a good quarterback? Yes. Do I think he's great? No. But you could do a lot worse than Tua Tagovailoa. You know, Stu, if I told you that the Raiders could have Tua Tagovailoa right now,
done,
you would do it.
Yes.
Even though Tua Tagovailoa, you're not getting a top 5 quarterback in the league, but he's solid. He's good.
Yeah.
So I look at Flores. Here's the thing, too. It's easy for people to say, hey, the guy was 24-25 as a head coach. But they were 5-11 that first year. They were supposed to be the worst team in the league. They ended up picking 5th in the draft, and they ended up getting Tua, or 5th or 6th in the draft. So they won some games there with not a lot of talent. And remember, everyone was like, tank for Tua, and then Joe Burrow emerged, and Joe Burrow ended up being the first quarterback. And then in 2020, Brian Flores was 10-6. Now, after that, they were 9-8. I'm not saying 10-6 and 9-8 would be, unbelievable. But for a guy that did not have a lot to work with in Miami, that's not that bad. 5-11, 10-6, 9-8. Now, the question is, do you trust him or not, depending on where he goes to get on the same page with the quarterback? Like, I look at the 6 open destinations right now. Do you trust Brian Flores with the young Drake May? Well, who's your offensive coordinator? Because they were not able to find an offensive coordinator, Brian Flores' time with Miami. I think they had a new offensive coordinator each and every year. You look at the Bears. Do you trust Brian Flores with Caleb Williams? Like, you look at Caleb Williams' body language, it wasn't good this year. If Brian Flores is in-your-face, tough coaching, is that going to work? You look at the Jaguars with Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence's career, I know he got the contract, but us perceiving that he could be a good quarterback is on life support. The Jets don't have a quarterback. The Raiders right now don't have a quarterback, and the Saints don't have a quarterback. So if you're one of those 3 teams, like, at least the Pats could say, we got Drake May, we're hopeful. Bears, at least we got Caleb Williams, we're hopeful. The Jaguars, we still believe in Trevor Lawrence. He just hasn't been healthy the last 2 years. If you're the Jets, Raiders, and Saints, and assuming that Rodgers doesn't come back, or even if he does, do you trust whenever you try to go find that long-term quarterback for Brian Flores, Jets, Raiders, and Saints, that he's going to be the right guy to bring in the right offensive coordinator to develop that quarterback and have a good relationship? So maybe he did learn from what happened. I think Brian Flores is a good guy. I do. Also, I think what Brian Flores has done the last 2 years in Minnesota is very impressive. But is Brian Flores just a good defensive coordinator, or can he be a good head coach? And the problem is with Belichick guys. So people confuse Vrabel as a Belichick guy. He played under Belichick. He didn't coach under Belichick. You look at whether it's Charlie Weiss, Romeo Crennel, Bill O'Brien, Josh McDaniels, Joe Judge, Brian Daboll, Brian Flores. I'm not saying all these guys have done this, but a lot of these guys, they think they're Belichick. And right, if Belichick comes into a locker room and says, I'm Bill, kiss the rings, I'm the hoodie, we're going to do things my way or the highway, we're on to Kansas City and Cincinnati and all those places. That's Bill. If Bill wants to be my way or the highway, he's a 6-time Super Bowl champion. Now, these guys have won championships before, but not as a head coach. So I'm not saying you change who you are completely, but the Belichick guy is usually not a player's coach and is not a doormat. And how many times I say on this show, you could be a player's coach, but don't be a doormat. So I'm not saying that the Belichick guy has to be a player coach and you don't want to be a doormat, but you can't sit there and be a disciplinarian dictator. And that's what a lot of times, like Josh McDaniels struggled with it. And Brian Flores, even though the teams were doing fine in Miami, ruined that relationship with the quarterback. And you know this, 9 times out of 10, the quarterback's going to win over the head coach in this league in terms of who they're going to keep and then who they're going to get out. So I look at Flores, I'm intrigued because I think he could be a good head coach. But can he be a good head coach? That means he has to get a good relationship with the quarterback. And I thought, Stu, I don't know how you felt about McDaniels originally, but when they hired Josh McDaniels, they said, Josh has been around now a long time. Maybe he learned from Denver, and maybe he could correct his wrongs and right his wrongs. And obviously, he did not do that. He was the same Josh McDaniels in Denver. When he gets away from milking off the teat that is Bill Belichick, he thinks he's Bill, and he ain't Bill. So that's my concern with Flores. I want to see him. I want to see if he changed, actually. So let's do this right now. Fire up the music here, Stu. And do we have the Micah Parsons comment from the other day? This is Micah Parsons on his podcast.
For the people that kept believing, because we're not done yet. We are not done yet, and I hope that y'all don't think we're done yet. It's going to be an amazing, amazing, amazing thing to see next year when we're holding the trophy. Yes, it's big goals, but I'm telling y'all right now, it's holding the trophy. I'm saying my prayers out loud. I'm saying my goals out loud so y'all can hear them. We're going to be holding a trophy up next year. Point blank, period.
Do you think it's the same trophy that Jerry Jones once tried to hold up in Oxnard when he was simulating holding up a Lombardi trophy in the preseason all those years ago? Because I don't think the Cowboys are coming anywhere near the Super Bowl this time next year. But Stu, let's do a little draft here. 4 teams each, just 4. Teams that did not make the playoffs this year that you could envision or put some money down to go win the Super Bowl next year. I'll let you start. I'll let you go first here, Stu.
Thank you.
It's the day of Stu. It's the show of Stu talking about the Raiders and also the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
All right. I will go with the team I think definitely would have the best chance, and that is the Bengals. With all the talent, Burrow, Jamar Chase, Hendrickson on defense, I just think it was a bad year for them where they lost a lot of close games. I think next year they could easily be back in that conversation.
So I do think that's the first choice. That would have been my preeminent choice. So I take a look now around. I'm thinking 49ers. I know they're going to be one of my picks. And yeah, you got to go with the San Francisco 49ers here. So I will take the Niners. They're my first pick. Now, this is a snake draft. So let me find a way to make my second selection here. Teams that did not make the playoffs that could win the Super Bowl next year. You know what? I think it's going to surprise some people. You think I'm going AFC or NFC? Just wondered.
I think you're going NFC.
I'm going NFC, and I'm doubling down. So, I don't know. Maybe Matthew Stafford retires at the end of this year with the Rams, right? And the Rams aren't as good next year. I don't believe in the Cardinals, so I take the 49ers. If the Seahawks move off of Geno Smith and find their next quarterback, they got a pretty damn good roster in Seattle. So I will take the Seahawks.
Okay, with my pick, I will go with the Dolphins, assuming health from Tua. That's obviously a key. They would need him to be healthy. I would say that they would need Tyreek Hill to stay and be a leader, be more of a leader, if you will. I just think there's a lot of talent there now. Can they go into cold weather places and win games? That's tough, but with the remaining teams, I would say the Dolphins would be probably at the top of the list for me.
Your next pick?
After the Dolphins.
It gets tough after.
It does get tough.
It got tough after the Bengals and the 49ers, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
We could have just stopped this at 3, but let's go for it.
I have a few teams in mind. So I'll go with the Jaguars. I know they were a mess this year, but let's say they get the right coach that fixes Trevor Lawrence. You're in the kind of easy division. Maybe there's a way. I was really high in the Jaguars this year. I think if you have the right coach and add a few pieces, they could be a team that gets back into the mix.
Okay. I'm going to tap back into the well of the NFC. And I'm going to pick a team here that they're on the naughty list. They're on the Zach Gelb S list. It's the Atlanta Falcons. And I don't like that organization right now. I thought they should have hired Bill Belichick. They let too many people get into the ear of Arthur Blank that were selfish and not focusing on what's best for the organization. And Kirk Cousins, I guess, is going to be there. I don't think anyone actually believes that when they're talking about having a $40 million backup today. But that's just Michael Penix banking on him being a star. So the next team that I'm going to go with, and this is my last selection, the Jets are staring you in the face. But the problem with the Jets is I don't think Rodgers coming back. And even Rodgers does come on back. I'm not picking the Jets without knowing who their GM or their coach is right now. That's tough. Pats, no. Raiders, no. Cleveland? Shador Sanders? He's their quarterback? Man. You know what? I don't like doing this. But you get into the bottom of the barrel there. Give me the Bears. Take the Bears. Tough division. Got a solid roster. They get the right head coach. Caleb Williams starts playing like a superstar. I'll take the Bears. I hate that selection. I hate after the 49. I hate the 49ers selection too. The only team I would like here is the Bengals. All these other, and a little bit of the Seahawks. They have a soft spot for the Seahawks. Outside of that, all these teams. Yuck. Disgusting. Final pick.
All right, final pick. I don't like this pick either. I will go with the Cowboys.
Oh, you're taking the guy. I didn't even think of the Cowboys.
I will go with the Cowboys.
I didn't even think of them.
Other teams considered. Cardinals.
I threw to Micah Parsons. I didn't even think of them. Yeah.
Cardinals, Jets are the only other teams I really considered here. I just think it'd be too early for the Patriots, as good as Drake May is. Look, if you get a healthy Dak, maybe they catch lightning in a bottle. I don't feel good about it.
You know what this segment is? This segment's like, what disease do you want? What terrible thing do you want to have happen to you in life right now? Go ahead. Pick which one. So, Stu, teams that didn't make the playoffs that we could see winning the Super Bowl next year. What a stupid way of doing this. Bengals, Dolphins, Jaguars, Cowboys, Stu. I have the 49ers, Seahawks, Falcons, and Bears. Stu, I think you beat me pretty good on this exercise.
I think just having the Bengals helps a lot.
I thought you were going to take the Niners.
Really? Did you?
Yeah, I don't know why. 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. Let me quickly squeeze in Rob in Connecticut. Rob, go ahead.
Hey, you already snow segment. What's up, Zach?
Doing good, Rob. What's happening?
Not much. Hey, I just wanted to bounce some things off you. I've been listening to this show since 3. First off, I like Notre Dame tonight. Great call. Definitely rooting for the Golden Dome heads tonight. And also, I had to tell you had me in stitches. You got to keep doing the Belichick impression. That's awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Unbelievable. And also, hey, if you need a hype man, like somebody to do like dancing on your show, I'll be more than welcome to come in there and bust out the Flavor Flav dance for you, anytime.
So Rob, do you have like a big clock? Just wondering that you walk around and wear that big clock that Flavor Flav has?
Well, I can come down to New York City and pick one up, and then I'll meet you at the
studio. Are you a big social media guy? Just wondering, are you on social media?
I would love to be in social media. I used to be a DJ at a strip joint, so I always was told I had a great voice. So
wow, I wonder who was saying that to you.
Yeah, I can't let. Don't let JR know that. He'll be calling me up.
Okay, I don't know what you mean by that. But
one more thing I wanted to end with, as far as the coaching. Not that I would like to see Joe Brady go, but Joe Brady would look look nice down in New Orleans. He's got that connection down in the Louisiana thing. So
yeah, I don't think that would be a bad hire. I don't think the Saints have much going for them, but they are one of 32 jobs, so we'll see. So, Rob, if you want to drop us, appreciate the phone call. Social media video of you dancing, we could put our advanced scouting team on there to see if we want you to come in the studio. So there is Rob in Connecticut. I didn't get the JR line. Well, there's good strip clubs in Atlanta. Maybe that Magic City. Was that a Lemon Pepper Lou reference or something like that with those wings at Magic City? Maybe, but I was like, wait, what are we doing here? I've been out with JR, nice guy for dinner, all that stuff. I'm not envisioning, unless if JR is talking about going to the strip club on his show all the time. I'm not envisioning JR in the strip club anymore. But maybe Rob has something in Connecticut about JR that I don't really know about. All righty, it's one of those things. You open up Pandora's box to the callers, they say something interesting, and it's one of those awkward moments in radio that we're here right now. So what we'll do is we'll send it over to Rich Ackerman at the latest Infinity Sports Network, not Strip Flash, but Sports Flash.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
Well, the Raiders waited a couple of days before firing Antonio Pierce, and today parted ways with GM Tom Telesco as well after less than a year on the job. And, of course, that sparks more speculation about Bill Belichick. Carson Beck is entering the transfer portal, going from a potential top 5 pick to looking for a new opportunity in college. The college football season has come down to 4 teams, all with great tradition. The semifinals kick off tonight, the Orange Bowl with Penn State and Notre Dame. The Nittany Lions looking for their first championship since 1986. They're led by quarterback Drew Aller, who credits the coaching staff for putting them in this spot.
I think Coach K and Coach Franklin do a great job of preparing us for every look that we can get, because sometimes you call the shot plays and the shot's not always there just because the defense takes it away. So it's about what the next progression is in our reads, and maybe getting it down to the second or third progression, and that could also create an explosive too.
The Irish last championship came in 1988. They've won 12 straight after falling to Northern Illinois, their only blemish on their schedule this year. Tonight's game between the Hornets and Lakers at Crypto.com Arena has been postponed because of the wildfires in L.A. This comes a day after the Kings and Calgary Flames are to be called off. Right now, Monday's playoff game at SoFi Stadium is still on. I'm Rich Ackerman.
'You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh, my God, we're back again.
So there was a report that I saw earlier today where, let me tell you something. Penn State don't win tonight. Ooh-wee. I'm going to have fun tomorrow on the radio. If I could have one wish for 2025, it's early. But if a genie came down and said to me, it's not only 3 wishes, you just get 1 wish. Penn State lose tonight. Because let me tell you something. Hickey, you're off Thursday. You may as well be off on Friday, too. Because we will be bringing Hickey on the show at some point, I would imagine. Or no, maybe actually we just let him marinate until he joins us then on Wednesday. But it would be really, really fun if Penn State loses tonight. Because here's why. And I know if you're a Penn State fan, I apologize in advance, right? Because if I got into the car and heard a radio host saying, I hope my team loses. That team loses. I'd be annoyed and be tweeting him and saying, you're a loser. You suck. You're terrible. Get a new job, right? I'd be doing that. So, Penn State, the road, the easy peasy road, SMU, Boise State, and now I think I know why Hickey's not working for JR tonight. And I think I know why Hickey is off. I think yesterday he flew down to the Orange Bowl and started coughing and sneezing and hocking up loogies all over the Notre Dame locker room and the Notre Dame hotel. Because Notre Dame is reportedly going through many players having the flu right now. Now, they've been saying it's a lot of backups, I believe. But Stu, we got the Notre Dame flu right now. So let's hope this is the Notre Dame flu game where all these guys are sick, contaminated. You know, if this was a few years ago, the game would have got canceled or moved back. So now Notre Dame's going to have to be playing under the weather tonight. So if Penn State, let's just say Penn State loses, James Franklin lost another big game where the other team was sick. Now, can I give you the spin already, Stu? Penn State wins. Oh, you beat a bunch of sick, a team that's sick. Bunch of sick kids. So, the Notre Dame flu, does it concern you? Are you concerned here?
Based off of what I read, it was like you said, a lot of backups and special teamers. So I would say no.
Special teams have been good, though, for Notre Dame.
It's true.
You get a kick return. Could be bad. Could be bad.
On short rest, too. Don't forget that. Don't forget that part.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, short rest for Notre Dame. I can't wait for this game tonight. The next few days for football are awesome. You get Notre Dame tonight going up against Penn State. Tomorrow, we have Texas, Ohio State. Saturday, you got the wild card games. So you have the Chargers and the Texans, Steelers, Ravens on Saturday night. Sunday, you have Buffalo and Denver. Then you have Philadelphia and Green Bay. You have the Washington Commanders and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then on Monday, we are supposed to have the LA Rams up against the Minnesota Vikings. There's a chance because of the wildfires in LA that game, I saw the contingency plan is to move it to Arizona and in Glendale. What is it? State Farm Stadium, something like that. State Farm Arena. I forget what it is. In Glendale, Arizona, the football stadium that's had so many big games. There was the one game I tried to erase it from my memory was the David Tyree catch. That was there. But then you also did have the great interception at the goal line by Malcolm Butler, where the Butler did it. So we got Penn State, Notre Dame tonight. We have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Football, and more football. Does that mess up your plans at all this weekend still?
No, not really.
Not at all?
No, I don't think I have any singular thing I have planned this weekend other than watching football.
Yeah, I had something planned on Friday night. But the person I'm going out with is understanding that the game needs to be on somewhere in some capacity to where we're going to. So that was only a rough thing on Friday night, when I made these plans and didn't really look at the schedule and forgot that there was a college football playoff game. But Saturday, wide open. Sunday, wide open. Thursday, wide open. Monday, wide open. All for the football. All right, let's hear Quinn Ewers, Texas quarterback. Is he thinking about the NFL draft or potentially returning with the decision that he still has to make?
Not looking too far ahead because I'll trip on what's right in front of me. So, again, that's too selfish of thinking for me to even be thinking about what's next for me.
Are you at least aware that there's a lot of speculation out there that people are going to throw huge numbers at you to go in the portal this season and that kind of stuff?
I mean, right now I'm just not worried about all that stuff. I mean, people can say all they want to say, but I'm just focused on Friday at this point in time.
What happens on Thursday or potentially the national championship? Playing, you're thinking at all about what you're going to do?
I have no idea. That's a great question.
So there's a lot there. I truly don't think that he knows right now because I don't know what the grade is on Quinn Ewers. Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward are the two best quarterbacks. The third spot is right up there for grabs. So if you win a national championship, your draft stock may be as high as ever, especially if you play well these next two games and you go to the pros. But if you want, imagine he wins a national championship and says, I want to come back to Texas. What does Texas do? If you win a national championship and he wants to come back to Texas, what does Texas do? The guy just won you a national championship. I know you have Arch Manning waiting in the wings. It's an interesting one. Now, if he doesn't win the national championship and wants to come back to Texas, I think either way, Arch Manning's going to be the quarterback next year. But if he wants to go somewhere else in college, a lot of people thought maybe it could be Miami. Well, now supposedly Carson Beck is going back to college, and one of the Cavender twins is his girlfriend. She's out of eligibility after this year anyway, but she's at Miami. Both the twins are at Miami right now, so you could have Carson Beck at Miami. But I think that's a fascinating domino to fall, where we have truly no clue what the answer is. Because he could go pro, I think if he tries to go back to Texas, I think the only leverage he could have is if he won a national championship. But if he wants to come back to college, yeah, you go get a bag of cash somewhere. And you already get a bag of cash right now. You got a big old bag of cash, though. If you're a national champion winning quarterback at Texas and you want to go elsewhere and Texas, wants to go with Arch Manning, be interesting. Ultimately, I think he goes to the pros. I would like to see him another year of college football, but ultimately, I think he goes to the pros. All right. That will do it for the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We are Notre Dame. Notre Dame 23-20. I don't feel confident about it whatsoever. Stu, thank you. Samson, thank you. Big thanks to each and everybody for tuning in. Act, thank you as well. All the Coaching Carousel guests, thank you. We will talk mañana, everybody, at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific time. We have to recap this big game tonight between Penn State and Notre Dame and also get you set for a weekend. Wild card weekend in the NFL. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.